getting going here, just bringing up the vibe a bit before I get into it. It's a book by Tesla, or about Tesla. It's pretty interesting. I've been reading it the past couple days on live. I read a little bit earlier. I read a little bit last night. I'm just trying to share this book with everyone and kind of study it together. So just listening to a little tunage. Take a little whiff of the spliff before we get going here, and hopefully a few more people in the room, and kind of go from there. What's going on, guys? If you haven't been watching already, I've been reading a book about Tesla, The Life and Times of an Electric Messiah, live for all y'all, and we've just been kind of going through the history and whatnot, breaking it down, taking kind of like an alternative look at his life and what he was really all about. I think he was a degenerate and a fake, but you know, that's just my opinion, but we'll go through it together. And like I said, I've recorded two videos so far of this discussions and reading the book itself, and that's on my YouTube link. That's in my link tree. So if you guys want to see the earlier versions, if you're just trying to catch up, and I mean if you've been here already, that's great. And you kind of already know what's going on. Yeah, the electric. It's actually a beat I was working on in the background there. But anyhow, I think I'm just about ready to get going here. But yeah, take a look at the cover here, guys. It's pretty cool, right? And we've read a fair amount, but there's a lot of information to digest and go through. So I'm just trying to take a stab at it every so often here. I just want to get through this study as quickly as possible. I'm limited in the amount of time. That's why I'm kind of doing this, because I am going to start traveling again soon, and the less I have to carry around, the better. And I honestly, I forgot that I had this book, and so I just want to read it, go through it. We'll study it, we'll make notes, and then we'll have a video copy to go through and whatever. And so I think that's pretty neat, and it's a very interesting book thus far. So welcome, and yeah. Like I said, if you're not caught up yet, that's fine. I've recorded these, and I put this on YouTube. So if you haven't seen the first two parts, well, and you want to catch up, or if you want to go backwards, it really doesn't matter. To me, it's all good. So they're calling him the father. Tesla is the father of the wireless. How about that? The father of wireless. A mass and movement resists change of direction. So does the world oppose a new idea. It takes time to make up the minds to its value and importance. Ignorance, prejudice, and inertia of the old retard in its early progress. It is discredited by insincere exponents and selfish exploiters. It is attacked and condemned by its enemies. Eventually, though, all barriers are thrown down, and it spreads like fire. This will also prove true of the wireless art. It's a quote by the man, the myth, the legend, Nikola Tesla. But yeah. But the thing is, I wrote this down afterwards. I said, was Tesla actually the inventor of all of this, or was he showcasing what the elite already possessed? Because that is something that we do question, right? We question his technologies, what he knew, where it come from. A lot of people are like on the Tartaria narrative, and yeah, sure, that's a place that got wiped out, and I'm not saying that it didn't exist, but I don't think that's the be-all, end-all, the answer to all this stuff. It's more of a keyword at this point to garner interest and whatever from the people. So, but I personally think Tesla was like a fake, a fraud, another Freemason actor, just like the World's Fairs. That was, to me, they were museums, and they were just like showing off all this old technology, pretending that it was new, but they've had it all along, and it's been a thing, just various versions of these different things over time. So, hey man, I think I've caught a glimpse of some of your stuff here and there, so I see that we're on the same page. So yeah, I'm not sure how far you heard of what I was talking about, but I've been reading this book for the past few days. And once I'm done with that, I'm willing to pass it around the community too. If someone wants to pay the shipping, I'll gladly send it to them. I said someone to do that yesterday, and they never sent me their details. So, anyhow, regardless, I want to go through this book. We're studying it. I've already done 2 videos, and we were like going through. It's really funny, actually. We were going through like his history and whatnot, and like there's a lot of interesting things. But we came to the conclusion that he had a brother named Dane, and Dane was killed tragically. But we think Tesla did it. We think he pushed him actually, and he's like a degenerate, a gambler, a womanizer, like all these different things that people don't think about. Like he's just a piece of shit, just like all the other actors involved in the like Hollywood elite sector kind of ideologies. But anyway, so here we go. And yeah, so I've been reading it the past few days. We've been we'll stop here and there. We'll have some discussions. If people want to come in on the live, we can stop. Like I take a little break here and there. I might have a little puff of a spliff, whatever. I'm pretty sure I made these talks 18 rated or whatever. So there's no going to be children popping in. It's just going to be us. You can Oh, the live is lagging. Could be on your end. Oh, sorry. Maybe I'll talk a little bit slower. I'm not sure, but yeah, I want to read a little bit. We'll discuss a little bit. There's like all kinds of pictures to go through. There's a lot of stuff, and I'm going to be doing this over the course of the next few days. So whatever you miss, you can catch up on. And if you want to participate, jump in the live, whatever. But yeah, I'm going to read a little bit, and then we're going to stop, and then we'll, if people want to. Generally, if people start talking in the comments or if someone wants to jump in, I'll stop for a few minutes. But if no one responds, I'll read. Like I read for like 2 hours earlier, and I'll read probably for another hour or two tonight. So, regardless, and like I said, if you miss anything, I'm recording them so you guys can watch them later. Anyhow, so let me just light this up again, and then I'll start reading. So, is there anything you guys want to say in the comments before I get going? Because I don't really read them while I'm reading the books. I just see them after. So just let me know before I start. Any opinions you guys want to add or predictions, whatever the case may be, as to what you're gonna find out this evening. But either way, all right. I don't see anybody responding, so we're gonna move forward. All right. While in Europe, Tesla visited the Gantz work in Budapest to see a 1,000-volt alternator they were building. He also visited Belgrade, where the Serbian king Alexander I conferred the special title of Grand Officer of the Order of Saint Sava on him and the Serbian poet Johan Jovanic. I think that's the name. I can't pronounce some of this. Some of these names are really hard, so I don't want to butcher them. Yeah, he was more than likely a fraud. Yeah. At this point in the game, that's how I feel about a lot of these situations, and that's a discussion we'll get in on later. But so, I wrote a poem in tribute to him. On the return leg of his journey, he went to Berlin to visit Hermann von Helmholtz. Doesn't that sound like a fake name? Hermann von Helmholtz. That's weird. To me at least. I don't know what that house name sounds like. Like you said, the World Fairs were a front for. Yeah, exactly. People think like that's like people think Tartaria must they destroyed some buildings from the World's Fairs. They're these fancy electrical buildings, but really it's this huge narrative where we have these buildings all around the world, and the architecture is exactly the same. Doesn't matter where. Like I'm in Canada, I can see the exact same buildings even around me. I can see them in Brazil. I can see them in Japan. I can see them in North Korea. Like it doesn't really matter where we look. We're going to see the exact same style of architecture. And so what we can deduce from that is there was one group. That's what the people call Tartaria, but Tartaria was just a place near like Russia or whatever, right? So I'm not really following that. I think it's something different. I think that technology actually has been around for longer. Maybe it was given or shown to us, or I'm not going to sit here and be like, yep, this is what it is, guys, 100%. We're learning, we're going through if new information arises, we're going to adjust to those different things. So that's just how I feel. Look into the etymology of the understanding of the word. Yeah, that's actually a great idea. So sorry, Herman. What was I saying? Herman von Helmholtz. Just sounds like when I'm reading these, it sounds like fake names, fake stories. It's like a script. When you're reading, like when I'm reading historical stuff or books or whatever the case may be, it always sounds like I'm reading like from a movie script, and a lot of it's really silly or whatever the case may be. But that seems to be a regular thing. And like I said, we're looking at history as adults, not children or young teenagers that were being taught all this information. We could care less about it. We just take the one part. Okay, this is how it is. The adults are telling us, so well, it must be right, and so we go with that, and whatever the case may be. So, fake name, fake person. Did this happen? I don't know. Obviously, they have to use a little bit of truth in, this is what I was saying earlier. The game is two truths and a lie. any type of lie, you got to use a little bit of truth to make it resonate and sound right with people. So there's always, just like the Bible, there's truth, there's lies, there's mixes. They even took, though, I found out recently what it's called. It's the Apocrypha, and it's like huge, vast amount of books that they took out of the Bible because they felt it didn't belong. So like there's all kinds of stuff we're missing, and not even just the book of Enoch. There's so much more, and I'm going to look more into that at some point in time, and I'm sure you guys will probably want to talk about that now as well. But anyway, so carry on. Yeah, I don't know if this was written by a fanboy, but obviously you can't just sit there and talk a bunch of lies about this famous person. I mean, you could, but I find that hard to believe. So obviously there's some bullshit and there's some lies, but and obviously we can look at things from a broader perspective, and look outside of the box when we look at a situation. Just like the whole thing, like as I was reading, I deduced that he probably had something to do with it, and then they're saying that some people thought that he might have done it, and it was just like, oh, okay, I was like, what the fuck, like. Anything's possible. I just don't think he's as great. Like, I'm not a fanboy. I might have been like, oh, that's cool. Maybe like I don't. I think he was just a figurehead, just like a puppeteer, just like a lot of these other people are. Anyway, so where was I? Yeah, he developed the mathematics of electrodynamics that went on to bond to C. Henrik Hertz, who was the first man to transmit and receive radio waves. Hertz had conducted his experiments with a simple sparking apparatus that could transmit radio waves across his lab. However, Hertz was a theoretical physicist who simply wanted to investigate the theories of James Clerk Maxwell, not an electrical engineer who wanted to put them to a practical use. Tesla had already duplicated Hertz's experiments and from them developed the Tesla coil, which was capable of transmitting wirelessly over a long distance. So this was when he developed that for the first time. So he was copying other people's experiments and then like building. I mean, yeah, that's how a lot of things are. You take something and you make it your own. So he took what he saw and made it better or changed it, apparently. So we're told. I don't know. This is the information I'm presenting. So, yeah, like, well, you know what? I think potentially at some point in time, I think they just like getting drunk, sitting around the table like a bunch of buddies, like a boys' club, and they're like, okay, this is what we're gonna call it, and we're gonna call it all great, even though it's not great. We're gonna huge fire. Or a place demolished, the Great Fire. Oh, the Great Depression. Oh, I mean, there's the Great War. What's great about any of like they're fucking great? No, they're not great. But anyway, so I feel like they're just like making up all the stories. And at one point in time, when they're like taking historical photos, it's like a lot of people just wearing like wigs and prosthetics, fake mustaches, beards. They're like playing with all this stuff and stuff, and like. Okay, you're gonna dress up as blah 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 blah, and like posing for this. This is just how I see it in my head. Anyways. What do we have? Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to read your comments and respond. Exactly. He was probably like or pushed as real. Yeah, like was Einstein like? Some people say he was just hanging out in the patent office stealing fucking people's designs and shit. Like he wasn't even that smart. Anyway, so just kind of like how Neil deGrasse, like Einstein would have been the Neil deGrasse Tyson or something like some like dumb figurehead guy. Like he's just here. Here's the information. Yeah, pretend that it's you. Whatever. Blah blah blah. So, anyways. Carrying on. Where did I leave off last? So yeah, he developed the Tesla coil because of Hertz's experiments. So it would be interesting to look at documentation of those experiments and see what they were doing and if there's any evidence of that. So I mean, you can go super deep on it or you can go surface. I mean, really depends on what interests you. I kind of go whatever interests me. I might not look into every aspect of the subject, but we're all doing our part. Everyone's looking into different parts, and we can put all our parts together to it's just like we're all puzzle pieces, and each of us has a little piece of a puzzle. There's something that we focus on, something that interests us, something that we're studying, researching. We like talking about, we like thinking about, we like sharing information. We put all those little things together, and we're gonna fucking figure this shit out. Anyway, so breaking down history, whatever, books, shit like this. This is fun. Anyways, so Hertz had sought to demonstrate that space was filled with a substance called ether, which was both inconceivably tenuous yet extremely rigid. The reasoning was that if light and other electromagnetic phenomena are waves, they must have something to propagate through. Tesla maintained that such a substance could not exist, and the two men did not get on. In fact, doesn't that feel like a contradictory statement? Because, is there like a false thing that people are pushing using like the Tesla name? Because you know how they always say that he was all about the ether and harnessing free energy. Is that something that he even said, or is that just what we're told? Is he controlled opposition? Is he just let's feel bad about Tesla? He did all these great things, and if we had let him do those things, he could have invented wireless power. But oh, too bad it didn't happen. Sorry, and it was never invented. Go back to sleep. Like, is that what's happening with that? Like, that's how I perceive it. But oh man, you know what I mean. So, where was I? Sorry. See, it takes a little while for me to read because like I'll stop. We'll have I'll things catch my attention. I'm sure it catches your guys' attention as well. So they're talking about the ether, and Tesla did not believe in it, and which to me seems contradictory. So, could not exist, and the two men did not get on. In fact, the existence of Hertz's ether had already been disproved experimentally by A. Michelson in Germany in 1881, and again in collaboration with Edward Morley in the U.S. in 1887. On board the ship on the way back to the U.S., Tesla had one of his epiphanies. Air quotations. He was thinking about an experience he had while walking in the Alps. Observing on an oncoming thunderstorm, he noticed that rain held off until the first flash of lightning, and wondered whether he could use electricity to control the weather. When Tesla arrived back in New York after his triumphal trip, okay, so there's a few key things here. Traveling epiphanies, yeah, that's fucking cool. Because you know what? When I travel, when I hitchhike, when I went around, I did all these different things. I had a lot of time to think and just to kind of take it all in, you know what I mean? So definitely, it's believable, but to a certain degree, it's like some of the stuff is way over the top. So obviously, it's been embellished or exaggerated or whatever the correct word would be for this. But yeah, anyways, yeah. So his triumphal trip. So something about that, I'm triggered by the word triumphal. I mean, maybe it's because I've been looking at the triumphant arches, like the archways and all those different things. But something about that triggers me. The triumphal trip. Why? What does that mean to you guys when you hear that? Yeah, Turkmenistan. Yeah, I made a video about that a while back. I thought it was a real trip, and there's something really, really interesting that I noticed as well. Excuse me. They have a museum there, and if you look, and I had already been looking at some other things that clues that you see in all these different cities or these different places, but they had this museum, and it was a carpet museum, and I was looking, what's the most important image that I'm seeing on these carpets? It's the buildings. It's the buildings. Every time you see these postcards, these travel things, wherever you go, there's these images, and it's like right in our face what these things are, but we're told it's something else, so we don't think that it's something. You know what I mean? So all that stuff is right in our faces, and a lot of it has been a long time. You look at old movies, television games, cartoons, all these different things. All this stuff has been in our face the whole time. We just didn't see it because we're told that it didn't exist. You know what I mean? And we believed what we were told this whole time. We've been lied to our entire lives, potentially about almost everything. So if things are not really what it seems, I can understand that can be difficult for some people. So anyways, so he wondered if he could use electricity to control the. Do you think he really wondered, or do you think he knew he could? He just needed to was he actually reverse engineering the technology, or I have so many questions and not enough proof. So definitely something to consider for sure. So when he arrived after his triumphal trip, he was greeted with a photograph of Edison signed to Tesla from Edison. Then Westinghouse dropped by with the news that he had won the contract to provide the power for the forthcoming 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. Boom, everyone's triggered by that fair. That's like the only one that people talk about a lot of them, but like people are really stuck on that Chicago fair. Like I remember I've heard some people talking like, oh, Tartaria, it's the World's Fairs. That's what happened. They built it. Like I get it. Like it doesn't make sense. I don't believe that they only built it in a couple of years and then tore it all down. That's bullshit. Obviously they used it. They destroyed it. They left a little bit, but there's a key feature that they tend to do again and again is that they leave pieces of this architecture to stay for the remainder of whatever amount of time. Sometimes it's doorways, sometimes it's entire buildings, but they can't get rid of it all, but they do get rid of a lot of it. But that's not the entire picture. It's not just these places where these World's Fairs were. That's like the beginning. That you know how it's like a stepping stone into it for a lot of people. So that's the beginning of your journey, and then after that point, you're going to move on forward to other things, and you're going to realize more and more, and you're going to be questioning history, you're going to be questioning religion, all these different things, and there's all these different conspiracies that I've been thinking about like the last 20 years, and it's all connected. And for me, it started with religion. That's what woke me up, because it was like forced onto me, and I'm thinking about all these different things and trying to get an understanding of the earth and ourselves and life and everything around us and all these different things. So everything is connected. All our different, like his fake history, all these different things. And like now, this is something I want to talk about too, because like Hitler during the war and stuff stuff like this, they talk about he was looking for technology and like occult information and all this stuff. So he probably knew about something about this or another, and or it was just known, and that was something, because like once again, there's a lot of things that we have to question, and I know that's triggering for a lot of people because it brings up a whole other series of events that people discuss whether may or may not happen. I'm not going to get into that right now because that's not what I'm here for tonight, but. Masons cover old wood structures with their mark, and yeah, I call it the Great Freemason Coating and Cover Up, and that is trademark to me. So they went around, they slapped on their coating of whatever. These buildings already were there, the structures were there. I think a lot of it was brick. They used their stonework, they cover it over, false facades. And then what they do is then they take a picture, they set up a scaffold, and make it look like they're doing a job, and that's what they put in the history books. You see this like, and sometimes they take them from like, it's like they purposely take them from like the worst angles, you know what I mean? So it's a great Freemason coating and cover up with the scaffold maneuver, and that's how I feel about that. Boom. So there it is. Yeah, I started off just like watching like some random shit here and there, and it's cool. And then I started like thinking about it and started looking into it myself, and then noticing it around me, and I'm like more and more. And then I was like, okay, I started making content, and I'm like, okay, an opportunity arose that allowed me to leave where I was living and started traveling somewhere else. And I'm in the one place in Canada that has like the highest amount of archaeological like things, and what else is there here? There's like a lot of historical sites and everything, and I do have a section on my page that I've been going through and filming a bunch of these different places. I was doing filming in the winter, I've been doing in the spring, a little bit in the summer, and I am getting ready to depart and to visit some more places as well, and just going out to the field and learning these different things, because I would never have known about the coating and cover up thing unless I had gone out and seen buildings that were being demolished, or seen different clues being like displayed back to me through however you want to describe the world and how we perceive it. But like the way information was sent, like how do I explain that? Like it was like seeing clues and all these different things along the way. And I found a historical, like the first thing I came across, it was like I was driving out of a city. It was like on the outskirts of the city, and I could see this thing poking out of the woods, and I went and drove up to it, and it was like this weird tower thing. I made a video. It actually, it's almost like this tower in Chicago. It almost looks exactly the same, but it was supposed to be a monument from the War of 1812, and they're saying it was like something dynamo, and I know dynamo is related to electricity and motors and all this thing, so it's really strange. And it was like for some random lady, like it has nothing to do really with the war. It's so weird. And then that really started making me think, okay, monuments are something else, and they're not really what we think they are. So then it started making me had me thinking about all these different things as well. And then you're looking at the buildings, and like, shit, is it all brick? Like that would make sense, because then you think about like the clay, the Baghdad battery, all these different things. So it's like a housing for the battery, and what's going on. So definitely traveling is different than just going from behind a computer screen. So you got to do a little bit of both, and I think it's really important to get out there and to search around you and just question. I'm just really questioning everything. Uh, I think they still are harnessing. You know what I mean? So hey, what's up? What's up, girl? The old buildings were. I think they still are doing something. Okay. So just the easiest way that I can describe this right now to everybody is, okay, you got to think, okay, like watches, computers, cell phones, all these things. What are they? Where are the materials coming from? All the materials that's being used has been manufactured from stuff from the earth. So if you think about that in a compact version, now think of the computers in the 80s. They were fucking huge. So if you think of these buildings in terms of technology, they're just a larger version made up of the same minerals, elements, all those different things, clay, all this stuff that, to like enclose, like, how do I explain that? Huh, yeah. Do you guys know what I'm saying? Like, they're just larger versions. Like it's technology. It's tech. It's just a bigger version and made directly from. It hasn't been refined as much as the petroleum products that we hold in our hands. You know what I mean? It's the same stuff. I think nothing has ever changed. They've always had the same things. It's just come in a different package over time, and that's how I feel about that stuff. Well, I'm getting sidetracked here, guys. Uh, but yeah. So before I continue, is there anything else you guys want to add to that little rant there? You guys are like triggering me in the comments, but it's good. I like that because I can stop and then start talking about something else that I'm passionate about or that I'm thinking about on a regular basis. It gets me talking. So good on you guys for speaking up in the comments. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's all connected. It's like this fractal kind of thing. You know how when you look at, like I was watching this video game the other day, and like a thing on TikTok here, and as you're going in, you're suddenly in the next universe, which is the exact same thing. So I feel like that's how we exist. Everything is a reflection of something else on a larger and smaller scale, and it's like in and out. And do you guys know what I mean? Like the kind of like fractally shit. How do I explain that? I don't have the words to explain that. Yeah, you're Tartarian. Yeah, you were telling me that. Yeah, acupuncture, acupressure, all these different things. So, or reflexology, yeah. Cause, I mean, because if it's like a larger body or creature, like so, it's a lot of different things going on. It's interesting to think about for sure. The energy lines. What do they call those again? I know there's a name for it. It's like the crystal quartz. See, I got so much shit rolling around in my head. What you guys know this stuff? Just fill me in. It's like on the tip of my tongue. They're not meridians because that's about our body. The ley lines. That's it. Yeah, ley lines. So, and how do they? The question is how. See, there's all these different things, like different random bits of knowledge that we've been given over time, and stuff that's starting to make more and more sense. Because, like years and years ago, like 10, 15 years ago, I remember hearing about in India and like the Vimanas or Vimhanas. Like I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, but the flying machines and there's technology and all these different things that have been suppressed. So it's like everything. Yeah, man. Like everything's starting to come together, and this one thing kind of ties in a lot of other things and makes everything kind of, for me, like it's like one of those moments. You ever have those moments? Like I don't know if anybody hears mushrooms, but like you get that feeling like you understand everything in the universe all at once, but at the end of it, it's really hard to explain that to anybody. Sometimes I get that feeling where it's like, oh, cool. Like you're kind of getting it, but then it's like, how the fuck do you explain? To find the words to explain that at the right moment is the most difficult thing I find sometimes. As above, so below. Yeah, dirigibles. Yeah, I've been on a kick about dirigibles the past week. I've been like random videos have been popping up to me. Like there's stuff I sought out, but then there was like stuff that like a video game. Like yeah, just so much random stuff, and I think that's really cool. Like just picture flying around in your little airship or big airship, whatever the case may be. Like do you think that's how they were making the maps? Like because they would have been flying. Like how else would they be so accurate? Like you got these guys flying around in these airships because they even said Michelangelo or Leonardo. Who's the guy that was doing all the adventures? Leonardo, right? Didn't he make like some airship like a long time ago, or had that even before? So, like, I feel like I said, everything's just rebranded and given like a different name or whatever. But we've always had all these things, right? Yeah, like okay, because you got to think about okay. So I was thinking about it in terms. Okay, so there's the ether, right? And what would be generating that electrical field? Well, we have the magnetic poles, right? So are they moving? Is something moving somehow or another that's generating that electrical field? That's and like we would have to be in some sort of enclosed container for all these different things to work. So like I'm not a flat earther and I'm not a glober, so and I'm not going to get into that discussion. I do not want to talk about that tonight. It's here talking about Tesla, free energy, that sort of thing, but. I'm just trying to understand it in terms of that. Like, do I necessarily believe in the ether? I think it's a possibility, and I'm sure there's something to it. But the thing that I believe more than anything is that all these cities were built and geared for hydroelectricity, and that was what's been utilized all through time and through the land. And maybe they were generating something and using the water, and the water's the key. But then these buildings were used to transmit it. That would make more sense to me than just like harvesting it from the air. Like I get it to a certain degree, electromagnetism, all these different things, but at the same time, what's the most plausible like thing that you could think of happen? Like, does it make more sense that they're using hydroelectricity and transmitting it wirelessly, or does it make more sense that they're harvesting it from the air? Or do you think there's both? Maybe there's both. I can't. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, that's how it is. But like, we got to. There's definitely question all these different things. But honestly, it makes more sense to me the hydroelectricity. Yeah, like I'm not a scientist, man. Like I have my interests. I have the thing. We all, like I said, we all have to play our part. If some people, want to step up and tackle those areas, then be, I want to hear more about the fireplaces someday. Yeah, I've heard a lot of different things. I would assume that it was some sort of electrical device. Was it create? Was there like a spark gap? Was that creating heat? Would it be something that would be visible, or would you see it? Because like I remember back in the day, people were discussing those fireplaces. They were talking about how everything was gilded and they had like all these fancy decorations. Nothing melted. There was ever no issues. And then you had these people coming in after the fact. Like how? Like honestly, how would you be heating entire castles? Like, how did they survive with just like little wood fire pits here and there? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. And yeah, that is an interesting subject. And what have you guys found so far about that? It's not something that like super interested me, but I kind of understand the basics of it. So, um, Right? You don't do that. Like they were decked the fuck out. Like I don't know if you guys seen what the air quotations here, guys, the Gilded Age looks like, but I can't imagine. Yeah, they would be, and everything was like lead, wasn't it? Like lead based paints and stuff like that as well. Positive electrons, the higher up we go, grounded via the Earth. Yeah, interesting, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna carry on, and we're gonna read a little bit more. Okay. Actually, let me take a sip of my drink before I go on. But yeah, wireless transmission of power is the next Phoenician overtones. Yeah, someone was talking about someone I follow. They were talking about Scythians or Scythians and like Bible references and stuff. Like maybe this stuff has been around since like the dawn of time. Maybe it was given to us. Some people believe in aliens. Some people believe fallen angels. So it's like there's a whole other like side of this stuff. The whole discussion about that and where this technology would have come from. So many different ways to look at this, so many different ways to skin a cat. I mean, we have some of the basics. We understand that we're learning about the earth and ourselves and all these different things. It's like this slow drip that's been coming the last like 4 or 5 years, and it's really enjoyable because I like seeing new things, and it's like people catch on. So like enough people, it comes across their like it gets into their path and their feed and their rotation, so that like I'll see a trend, I'll see a video, and then I'll see a bunch of other people. They've so it's getting sent out. So when new information comes, everyone gets it. You know what I mean? So I find that that's pretty cool. Like I do try to avoid watching like too much of other people's stuff because I don't want to like to influence in such a way, and I don't want everything to be the same. So like once in a while I'll look and I'll be like, oh shit, we're all it's really funny because it's cool because I'm not even looking at this person and they're not looking at me, yet we're posting very similar stuff along the same time. So it's like almost some of us are like tuned in on the same spectrum of the same ideas, and the same information is being sent to us at the same time, if that makes sense. I don't know, I think that's kind of neat. Anyhow, antediluvian pre-flood, yeah. How many resets has there been? It's definitely a question in my mind. But so yeah, the wireless transmission of power. Hertz had conducted his experiments with a battery and a simple circuit interrupter, like a Morse key, connected to an induction coil, a small transformer to produce a high voltage spark. This could be detected using a copper loop with a spark gap. Tesla quickly realized that instead of a battery with a circuit interrupter, it would be better to use an AC current, while a circuit interrupter would only give a frequency at best a few hundred cycles per second. An alternator could give you 10,000 or 20,000 cycles per second. However, once an alternator reached that speed, it began to fly apart. But higher frequencies could be generated electrically. He had already used induction coils and capacitors, electrical storage devices such as the Leyden jar, to give split-phase AC currents to run his motors. These could also be used to increase the frequency even higher. Higher, putting putting a connecting capacitor across the terminals of a coil produced a circuit that resonated, giving a spike in output. He called this the oscillating transformer, though other experimenters began calling it the Tesla coil. So it's called an oscillating transformer, but its nickname is the Tesla coil. Neat. So, see, some of this stuff is, I guess, it's valid information, and we can all agree. Okay, so that's what it was initially called, and the other one, like we can agree on some. It's not all bullshit, but a lot of it is. Refining his oscillating. Wait, where was I? Oh yeah. A coil coupled to a capacitor that resonates at a specific frequency is the basis of all wireless transmission. Let me read that again. A coil coupled to a capacitor that resonates at a specific frequency is the basis of all wireless transmission. So, do you have to match the frequencies? Like, how does that work? Resonating, because when you're resonating, that means you're matching. Like, if I were to sing and you were to sing and we match, you ever do that with someone and you hear that sound like pick up and it sounds amazing? Um, do you know what I mean? Is that what they're suggesting? So to wait. So if I'm trying to send you something, or I'm trying to send power from one building to another, that means that we both have to resonate at the same frequency. So how do you pick the frequency, and how do you make the devices tuned into the same frequency? Is that what it's suggesting? What's a morphogenic field? You're using big words now, buddy. Harmonizing, yeah. Morphogenetic fields. What does that mean exactly? Harmonics, yeah, it's all about sound. It's all connected. Sound, light, frequency, all that shit, right? Why do you think my name's Frequency? It's not just you freak out when you see crazy shit. It's frequency, right? So, There's a reason for everything, and also the beatboxing, which I've been doing for years, and I do it randomly. Sometimes I do apologize. I can't really help that. It's kind of a thing. So synchronicity. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, talking about that a lot. That's really cool. I like when that happens. But so he was refining his oscillating transformers. He earthed one. Oh yeah, cool. So he earthed one terminal to the city's water main, then moved around New York, detecting the electromagnetic wave. So he basically does that mean he like turned the whole entire city into like one big electrical device at this point in time? Like that's pretty neat from the sounds of it. Okay, so electromagnetic waves generated at various frequencies. So he was abandoning Hertz's primitive spark. Wait, electromagnetic waves generated at various. So he was testing out the frequencies to figure out how to transmit it. Is that what's happening? Yeah, people. There was a couple weeks back there that a bunch of people were all posting, um, like Red Mercury stuff, saying it's like the same way they talk about vampires. It's repelled by certain things. I don't know if that's like proper, like because it's just the way the video is filmed. Like it's none of us in the community that's like got ourselves a hold of like some Red Mercury and we're experimenting. It's like there's some random video on the internet, so it's hard to say that that's actually what's going on with that. I would love to learn more about it, and I'm sure I will at some point in time. It's just not something that really caught my attention or interested me that much. But I know other people probably can explain it or are more interested in it than me. It's just everyone we chase the dopamine. I chase the things that interest me. Everyone has their little things, so I don't really know about it. Well, we noticed when looking into birds on different islands. I've searched a TV recently. No dice though. Yeah, like I don't know if it's just like to mess like a psyop kind of shit, just like to mess with people, or like someone trying to get attention or whatever the case may be. Yeah, like see, I don't care enough to go digging for old TVs. If someone wants to do that and show like, hey, this is what's up, fucking by all means, like go for it. But anyway, so carrying on. Abandoning Hertz's primitive spark gaps, he used other tuned circuits and vacuum tubes as detectors. However, Tesla's aim was not to transmit an intelligible signal as we use radio waves now. His goal was the wireless transmission of power. Did he use the whole city as a device? That's what I'm thinking. Anyway, so uh, do you guys want to hear about the electrical forefathers? There's a little blurb here. So we got James Clerk Maxwell, born in Scotland. Um, he had already demonstrated color photography and worked on the standardization of electrical units when, in 1865, he published A Dynamical Theory of Electrical Field. In it, he sought to convert the physical laws of electromagnetic induction discovered by Faraday into mathematics. His famous equation. Oh, is that Maxwell's equation that people always talk about? What? I keep hearing about that, but it's not something I've looked into myself. His famous equations show that electric and magnetic fields travel through space as waves moving at the speed of light. This led him to propose that light was electromagnetic radiation and predicted the existence of radio waves. Do you think? I don't think they predicted shit. I think they just got access to old information and they were trying to act all cool and smart. And it's like, no, like, it's like everybody knows that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. The Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, how many people were? I think I watched too much Full Metal Alchemist back in the day. But yeah, when people talk about the red Mercury, the first thought I had was the Philosopher's Stone. I was like, okay, how many people had to be sacrificed to make that? You know what I mean. Okay, so Herman. See, listen to his name: Herman von Helmholtz, Heinrich Hertz, Michelson Morley. Like, maybe it's because they've just been ingrained to like pop culture and shit. Just the I don't know. Just the names sound fake to me. But anyways, um, where were we? Herman von Helmholtz. Like many scientists of the day, Helmholtz worked in the multiple fields including physiology, optics, meteorology, hydrodynamics, and the philosophy of science. He is best known for the law of conservation of energy between 1869 and 1870. He studied electrical oscillation and he noted the oscillation of electricity in a coil when it was connected to a Leyden jar. He sought to measure the speed of electromagnetic induction but left the determination of the length of electric waves to his star pupil, Heinrich Hertz. Where are we? Okay, so after studying, so Heinrich Hertz, 1894 he died. Okay, so after studying under Helmholtz, oh, how convenient, he just happened to die in the end of the 1800s. So, a lot of these guys did, actually, if you look at that. And then the next reset. So all these famous people are gone. and no one can ask them about what really happened. No one can put them on the spot and be like, okay, did you actually do those experiments? Okay, let's see all your proof. You know what I mean? So they can't question them. Just like that's why I think Tesla was locked away in an apartment, so no one could talk to him or question his work or any of that. And they probably did shit to like fuck with him or make him go crazy or act weird or whatever the case may be. He was being watched, definitely. In my opinion, I don't know what you guys think, but yeah. Yeah, that's what they were saying about the Mercury. It's like a vampire, basically, based by that description. It's kind of interesting. So yeah, after studying under Helmholtz, Hertz began his investigation of the theories. So they've all played off of each other, basically. So I find that funny. So his investigation of the theories of James Clerk Maxwell, he developed a primitive equipment to generate electromagnetic waves and measured their wavelengths and velocity, demonstrating that they could be reflected and refracted like light and radiant heat. He showed that light and heat were also electromagnetic waves. Like our entire existence is electro. I believe more in us living in a toroidal field than I do that we live in like a physical plane existence, a ball, earth, everything. I think just everything is about electromagnetism. Our bodies, the earth, everything around us. It's the sun, the moon, all this shit. Electromagnetic levitation, all these different things. It's all about electricity, everything, anything. So are we just in a computer simulation? What the fuck's going on? I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of everything. I have all these different ideas in my head, and sometimes I'll get a little bit of information. I'll lean more towards like, oh, maybe we are in a simulation and nothing is real, and we're just like semi-aware Sims, or maybe we were created. Maybe we're just a giant genetic experiment. Maybe aliens came here and they did actually turn us into gold miners or whatever. Like there's all these different things, and there's different pieces of information that push towards a certain idea, but they all kind of have their own merits that kind of make sense to me. So it's difficult to come to. Uh, so he thinks it's a Taurus, yeah. I made a funny video the other day because people talk about like the ice wall and all these different things, the firmament. It always reminds me of an eyeball, so I made like a little funny video about what I think it would look like. And I've just been playing with different ideas. There's another part of me that thinks I was making a joke about this. So we're in a terrarium, right? That's where the dome comes in, the glass. And you know how when they talk about the floods, the waters came from above? Well, I think we were just overwatered. That's my joke. So the God's like this crafty motherfucker building all these different things. Watch the video sometime, or I'll tell you guys anyway. But anyway, so God's this like crafty motherfucker just building humans, putting them in containers and shit, and he just overwatered, and that was the flood. He wasn't angry at us. That's just what we assumed. He actually just fucked up, and we got a little bit overwatered. So that's my joke about that. So like that's my page. I use like a little bit of humor, a little satire. I'm making jokes. I'm just poking fun at different things, and so I definitely, it's definitely not what we're told, and I know we've been lied to. So that's where I stand. I can't sit here and tell you what I think, what it really looks like, and what it is, because no one else can. So that's gonna trigger people. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and tell people exactly what it is. I can show my interpretations, my opinions, and that's where it's going to stand. You guys can come to your own conclusions, your terms, whatever. But I know there's a lot of things that we can all agree on, and we're like, holy fuck, like, yeah, some of this shit actually makes sense. So, fucking cool shit, right? Where was I? The fucking forefathers. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That reminds me of the founding fathers or the finding fathers. So when they say they founded a town, it means they found it, not found dead. Or some people say found dead, but that's another one. Actually, that's kind of funny. That makes sense as well. Just like ruins and ruined, like they actually ruined those places to make it look like something else. Like I think they like did some different things to create these different time periods. Like I think everything potentially could be compressed, or like I'm trying to understand how old does it. Like, what's the lifespan on a brick? Like, okay, so a lot of my content, I've been doing a lot of different stuff. I've been talking about like construction, construction techniques and different things. I've been showing, okay, how long can a brick last compared to now with the different things in the recipes, and we were looking at all these different techniques for carving and whatnot, the different types of stones that's out there. What is stone? What is it really made of? All these different things we have to question. So did they have technology? Did they not have technology? To what level? Did they have electricity? Did they have tools, like electrical tools, or are things not quite the same? Were they really good at formwork? Like, is granite not this hard stone? Did they have 3D printing technology? There's all these different things that I look at when I look at these buildings, and I look at all these different, and then we have the melted buildings, the melted architecture. You have these things embedded in rock formations, and all these different things that raise even more questions than answers, and it goes on and on and on. And we have all these different. It's fun. It's interesting for sure, but I feel like the deeper there's just keeps going, like history and tunnels and all these like underground cities. Like some of this, it's funny because like I've been getting all these like different clues and hints over time in life, and just all these things are all coming together now, and it's like starting to like really make sense, and it's very exciting times for all of us. And yeah, the orphan trains. I just caught wind of what you're saying. Uh, what do you make of the children who are imported? Yeah, like okay, so we have all these stories, and that's something that's also like okay. So a lot of people are talking about different things, like they were manufacturing babies, they were stealing them. Maybe there were people that were left over after the war. We have all these different things, but the one thing that we know for sure, think about when you spoke to your relatives in the past. They were always working at a really young age. You have all these kids, and you have all these teenage boys going to war, and all these different things happening. And the people, the women staying to work and work in the factories, do these things, but you got to think about all the child like labor. Like why were all these children working? Where were the adults? Why would children have to go into a labor force? Like why was there a bunch of adults missing? Like were these just a bunch of manufactured children? Were they stolen from somebody from some other land? Like there's a lot of different questions. People think that there's other continents that we don't know about. Some people think there's whole other areas. So like you know. Anything is a lot of things are possible at this point in time, and we can't really say for sure about some of those things, but we do know, a lot of things are starting to not make sense, and we're making all these new connections and finding out these different things. So yeah, that's the worst part is sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, how the like like the island, like how do we know that we all don't have like this false fake like childhood picture in my mind, like how do we know that it's not all simulated? How do I know that yesterday even exists? I know it's like crazy sounding. I'm not crazy, I swear, and I'm not going to kill myself ever. But you know what I mean? Like, how do we know that any of that really happened? How do it's just all this all like false implanted memory? Like, I don't want to get too crazy like that because like that can trigger people, but. I'm questioning things. That's the biggest yeah movies are always telling the truth and the news lies. That's just honestly that's how I feel about a lot of this stuff. Beyond the ice wall, how do I know that the ice? What's the white part of your eye called? I know I was making a video about that, making a joke about maybe we're in God's eye or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? But like I think there's definitely something to our myths and legends because giants, Jack and the Beanstalk, you got goblins, elves, all these little people, and I think there's different bits of it kind of like embedded into our society, and they're the freaks or the freak shows of today, but really they're just different kinds of humans. You know what I mean? So I find that's an interesting thing, and there's the idea of giants and petrification, all that stuff. I find that really fascinating. I haven't delved too far into that yet into my content. It's very interesting, but there's other people that do it, so I'm trying to do my own thing, and I'm taking a different approach at things because I have construction experience, and that's what like made me start to question stuff because I'm like working on these buildings from the ground up and doing these different tasks at different points in my life, and then when I'm looking at the history of these different buildings and these different places, I'm looking at like, okay, how many people are in this town? Like, oh, 1,000? What, they built this huge cathedral in 2 or 3 years? What, where's every man, woman, and child walking around with tool belts, fucking master masons going at it? Like, and people are like, oh, they just loved what they did. Yeah, but people have a fucking life. Like, they still have to farm, they have to hunt, they have to do other things. They can't just fucking chip away at rock all day. Like, that doesn't make sense. And people, oh, it's about money, it's about this. No, it's just fucking bullshit. Like, fuck, I'm ranting, but yeah, I got so many questions, guys. Like, and like, there's all little bits and pieces and little clues in movies and in video games and all these things all around us. And it's like, if we are in a simulation, it's like a video game. We're in like this adventure mystery. I made a video of the guys the other day. It's like we're somewhere in between Indiana Jones and what's that movie with Nicolas Cage where he's like. Fuck, I just made a video about it the other day. What's that movie called? If you guys were watching my content or whatever, you would. Shit. Come on, guys, help me out here. He's like, there's like all this stuff embedded in like there's the Declaration of Independence and all these like these underground. No, not Independence Day. Shit, what's it called? Sorry, guys, I just sometimes I forget random shit. I got a little got going there. But anyways, we're in between these like two films, so you'll see the video. I posted it recently. But where it's like if life is a movie, this is the movie that we're in, and we're like in this like adventure mystery puzzle that we have to like solve, and we're given all these little bits and pieces of information, and over time we're gonna solve it, and like I just feel like more and more is coming out, and just like it's really starting to make sense. But we still got to work together. We got to figure out all this stuff, and arguing about the shape of the Earth is not the be all end all. I think we got to do more than that. We got to get past that. That's like a stepping stone, just like the World's Fairs is. I want to see more people out in their communities looking at these different things, thinking about this stuff, like thinking about free energy, all these different things. Well, like. I know a lot of people get worried that like if shit goes down, it's going to get really bad. But I think at the end of the day, I think people will come together more than anything, and maybe that's something that people need. But maybe that's a planned thing. But if we think about things in terms of like a simulation and like video games and all these things, they're just doing what they're programmed to. When you're in a boss fight and you're going through all these things, you need those challenges. You know those things to get better, to improve, to get better. You need those things to make you want to go forward. So we need that evil in the world, whether we like it or not. It's the things that encourage us to be better and to make a better world and to do all these different things, because life would be fucking boring if we didn't have any challenges. So I think that these if we're in a game, that's what we need, and those are the challenges. And we're like getting towards the end of our boss fight, and yeah, that's just how I feel about that. Let me take a sip of my drink and. Oh, right. Yeah, definitely. We gotta figure this shit out. Even if it just starts with hydroelectricity. I found out something really interesting recently about electroculture and like plants and copper and towers and quartz and all these different things. So I think that's really interesting. We can implement these things into gardening. And apparently, you know, very interesting stuff. So something to look into. Like I feel like there's something to it, but I just there's some pieces of information missing. So I try not to talk too much on stuff that I'm not like 100% or like too confident on, or I haven't looked in enough to really formulate an opinion on. So I'm still not sure about that. Yeah, like we all have to be doing our little parts and whatever the case may be. So and that's what we need. We need people that are. What's the name of this book? It is The Life and Times of an Electric Messiah. I stopped reading. We started. You guys get me distracted. I start talking about random shit. Uh, um, yeah, the last thing I think I left off, yeah, we're talking about the electrical forefathers. I started talking about finding fathers. Yeah, I caught my train back. Okay, now I'm back to where I was. So I'm going to keep reading. The skin effect. Early in these, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys. Yeah, you guys got to check out the other chapters, because if you're enjoying this interaction, I mean, this is my favorite one so far, because you guys there's a few more people talking in the comments and stuff. The other ones it was a little quieter, but definitely interesting stuff. Just going over it was like his history, his family, education, all these different things, and all the fucking bullshit that happened in between. But it's actually quite comical. I mean, I think the lives are like an hour and a half long. I don't know if you guys can sit for those, but there's definitely some good tidbits of information and a lot of like funny shit as well. But anyways, that's up to you guys. Check it out on my YouTube if that interests you, whatever the case may be. So I am going to continue here. So, oh yeah, and I think they were experimenting a lot on animals, which is a terrible thing. But yeah, think about all the shit that had to happen to get to this point, like biology, sciences, all this stuff. They had to do a lot of fucking around. So, skin effect. Early in these experiments, Tesla accidentally touched a high voltage terminal and to his surprise was unhurt. At high frequencies, electricity exhibits what is known as the skin effect. The magnetic field created pushes the current to the outside of a conductor, so it does not run through the body, damaging the nerves and muscles. Instead, it travels across the surface, leaving the internal structure undamaged. In his public demonstrations, he touched one terminal of a high-frequency apparatus generating tens of thousands of volts, illuminated a bulb or tube held in the other hand. This also showed that alternating current, if at a sufficiently high frequency, was safer than direct current. There we go. Shit, that was a little bit of a tongue twister there for me for some reason. So, on the road. Oh, Marconi. Okay, cool. There's a little blurb we can talk about after. So, on the road. Tesla and his lectures hit the road in 1893 and pulled in huge audiences with his dazzling demonstrations and novel ideas. In Philadelphia, he outlined a method of transmitting pictures, that is, television. The secret of wireless transmission, he said, was resonance. Wires become unnecessary as electrical impulses jump from a sending device to a receiver if they are attuned to the same frequency. Same frequency. I haven't even read this far in the book. That's hilarious. So we were having a lot of my ideas have changed since I found this book initially in a Value Village. It was the weirdest thing. All the books, like you just saw the back cover, like the spine, but this was the only book that was face out, like facing me. And I was like, okay, that's a sign. I got to get this book. And I started reading it, but then I stopped. Like I had all these like ideas and things that came from it, so I just stopped for a while. And it's really interesting to go back and look at this stuff based on my new opinions and these different things that I've been thinking about and looking at, and to go over it again. This is cool. I'm enjoying it. So, where was I? Wireless becomes unnecessary. He presented a diagram showing aerials, transmitters, receivers, earth connections, all the elements of modern broadcast systems. So it's does that mean it would be the same kind of stuff that we're already using? It's just about tuning the frequency, basically. So basically, anything can be transmitted wirelessly. But the question I have is, people talk about like 5G and, Wi-Fi signals and cell phone things, all these different things bouncing around. Now, they say those things are harmful. So would it would it have been harmful for them to be doing this? Is that maybe that's what created some sort of event that maybe, is that where was there like a plasma event, and that's where there was so much heat created that these, like something happened? Like these are definitely things to think about, because I want to understand the reset. I want to understand, was it all one big thing? Is it all these separate events? I have all these questions. Some people say it happens every 100 years. Like I don't know. How many years did any of this really happen ago? Like so many questions. We're getting some answers here and there, but definitely some doors just bring more questions for sure. But very interesting. So yeah, this was not just theory. He gave practical demonstrations. On one side of the stage, he had a high voltage transformer connected to a bank of Leyden jars, a sparking gap, a coil, and a length of wire hanging from the ceiling. On the other side was an identical length of wire and an identical coil and bank of Leyden jars. But instead of the sparking gap, there was, and now I don't know this word, it's Geissler, so Geisler, or discharge tube that glowed when electricity was passed through it, like a primitive neon light. Not only was the demonstration dazzling, it was full of strange sounds. When electricity was fed to the transformer, the core strained, making odd groaning noises or sounds. Corona sizzled around the edges of the foil on the Leyden jars, and sparks cracked across the sparking gap. But the radio waves traveled noisily from one antenna to the other, and the Geisler tube lit up. Yeah, always more questions. Grid meltdown. Yeah, like, did they do something wrong? Like, were they like, oh, let's mess with the ether, and like some shit went down? Like, see, like, I don't, because like, people think a nuclear bomb went off or atomic bomb, but like, isn't there people that question that even if that even exists? So like, what really happened? You know what I'm saying, guys and gals, whoever's here? Like, just a lot of stuff to think about. So yeah, Guglielmo Marconi, 1874 to 1937. So. I've heard that name before, but I'm not sciencey, so I don't really know the reference, but I'm about to find out with you guys. So, in 1894, Marconi began experimenting with an induction coil, a Morse key, and a sparking gap, along with a simple detector, at his father's estate near Bologna. Devising a simple aerial, he increased the range to 1.5 miles. He moved to London, where he filed his first patents in June 1896 using balloons and kites. He increased the range still further. What's with these guys and kites and stuff? Like, I feel it's like a game of telephone. Like each person takes like a piece of what someone else did, and they add like a little bit to it. Or is that just the way they did the history back then? You know what I mean? Funny stuff. So he increased the range still further. In 1899, signals were sent across the English Channel and America's Cup using Marconi's equipment for ship-to-shore communication. The following year, Marconi took out patent number 7777, which enabled several stations to operate on different frequencies. This was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1943 when it was shown that Tesla and others had already developed radio tuning circuits. So he was not the first. Tesla was actually the first, apparently. So we say. So we're told. I don't know. Anyway, so in December 1901, Marconi transmitted a signal across Atlantic from Cornwall in England to Newfoundland in Canada. This led to the discovery that the curvature of the Earth had proved no obstacle because radio waves reflected off ionized layers in the upper reaches of the atmosphere. Marconi continued to improve the range and efficiency of wireless devices and set up companies to exploit his discoveries. In 1909, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics. In 1932, the Marconi Company won the contract to establish shortwave communication between England and the countries of the British Empire. How about them apples? Here, so we'll get a little woo. See, there is some cool pictures. Let me read that. Nikola Tesla quietly reads a book in his Colorado Springs. Oh, that's funny. I've just posted a video about Colorado Springs or Colorado and some melted architecture. Anyway, so his laboratory in 1899, surrounded by millions of volts of electricity and streams of artificial lighting created by a giant Tesla coil. Or what's it actually called? An oscillating what, guys? Was anybody paying attention? Does anybody remember? What's the real name of a Tesla coil? It's an oscillating what? No? I don't remember either. It's okay. I hope somebody's taking notes. And like that's why we're recording it, because I might not get to read this book again, but at least I can go back and look at the videos, right? So, and it's like a digital, like, vocal note taking, but with a little bit of fun, a little bit of humor. So let's talk about the legendary Tesla coil. Let me just skip ahead. I want to see how far. Okay. I shouldn't go that far. Oh, we're getting somewhere, guys. This is fun. Uh, I'm gonna take like 2 seconds here. I'm gonna recharge, have a little drink, relight this spliff. If you guys want to talk in the comments, ask some questions, talk amongst yourselves, whatever. I'm gonna respond. I just trying to multitask here, guys. I'm trying to read to you, trying to have a discussion, whatever comes to my mind. I'm staying hydrated and high. So sometimes I abstain, and sometimes it's good to have a little something something, right? Especially when it's your own. But that's that's another YouTube channel I'm working on, actually. So that's something we can discuss down the road, because that's a whole other part of me. But we're not going to talk about that today. Anyways, you guys got anything you want to discuss before I get going? I don't know if you guys are trying to read the pages ahead of time or what. I mean, you could try to, but whatever. But yeah. No, I appreciate you guys coming in, though. It's good to have a little more people here than usual, and a lot of engagement, because that's why I do this. I mean, I make jokes a lot too, but I want to talk about this stuff. I want to have the discussions. It's just I find there's not a lot of people to actually have these discussions most of the time. So, and probably when I'm done this chapter, I want to get one of you guys or a few of you guys actually on the live and discussing. So I think that'd be pretty cool. Because I mean, I prefer to talk than type most times, anyways. So that's just how I feel about that. High frequency alternating oscillator. Thank you. Frequency. Yep, that's me. Yeah. I made a rap. I don't know if you guys watched it. Like, it kind of hit me. Like, sometimes I get these like weird moments of inspiration where I like want to make music and stuff. So I made a rap. It's called the World's Fair Freestyle, and it was like just about how they're like full of shit and whatnot. I thought it was pretty good. I made the beat too for it. Um, yeah, I made a rap. What's wrong with that? I'm always kind of rhyming here and there as I go. So I can't help it. So I made the beat. I made a little rap over it, and it's about the World's Fair. Check it out. It's somewhere on my page. I'm not a rapper, but I do enjoy a little bit here and there. Good luck finding it, but I don't know where I don't know what I have it labeled under, but it's clearly the World's Fair freestyle. So, um, but yeah, there's a lot of guys. If you've never seen my page before, I'm talking about history and how it's been changed or we've been lied to. I'm going through historical things. I'm proving that we have got tunnels underground. There's proof of alternative forms of electricity. They got electric vehicles for a long, long time. I think a lot of things have been suppressed. There are things that we've always had that we're told differently. So that's kind of what I'm here, and it seems like some of these people here in the page are about that too. I know there's another gentleman here that makes some content as well that looks pretty interesting if you want to check out. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, you can come on there in a bit there, buddy. If you're still if you're up for that. I see you got enough to go live. Maybe we'll get a few guys. Maybe we'll do like, what do you guys? You want to do guys like do a little panel here in a bit, and then we'll have like a bit of a discussion, and we can kind of share some ideas and do a little back and forth. I'm limited amount of time. Like I got my little rental situation here. Before like I planned everything to like move on and just, continue traveling for a little bit of the summer and the fall, visit some more provinces and search for some more architecture. But moving towards the East Coast most likely. So I'm headed on that journey, and I want to get rid of this book, but I wanted to go through it with you guys first. Everything happens for a reason. There's a reason I busted this book out. I totally forgot that I had it, but it's good for us to go back, and I'm glad I get to share this with you guys. And it's pretty cool, man. I don't, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. Yeah, thank you. And you never know. It's like I traveled a lot in the past. Like I went down to Mexico, I hitchhiked through there, hopped freight trains. I did that in Canada, U.S., and whatever. And at one point in time, I had this like super long, awesome trip, and I filmed it all. And I left the footage at my sister's, and either it went missing or it got destroyed. Something happened. Like I was really fucking disappointed, and it was a lot of work. So it's like this time around, I'm just doing it piece by piece. Soon as I film something, I'm gonna try to load it up. That way, I don't lose anything. It can like stay on the internet. Maybe I'll make doubles of everything, but like I can't trust all my information on one like space because of that. When you put all your eggs in one basket, well, what happens, right? So, and I'm a adventurous person. This is not a new thing for me to just like give up everything and go. I already did this like 6 months ago. I completely switched around my whole lifestyle. I dropped the full time job I had, my living situation, all these different things. Just to I took a random job that actually brought me to this part of Canada, crossing through a few provinces or whatever. There's like three of them, and yeah, kind of started my adventure here. And if you look at some of my stuff from Ontario, you'll see some of the different buildings that I found, and like cathedrals and other things. And I've just been like building some theories and different things to get to the point where I'm at now as to what I'm talking about. And it's not. I'm just not pulling shit out of my ass. I get an idea about something, like, and then I start looking around and searching, looking at different evidence, and come to a conclusion based on based on all the different evidences. Like when I say that I think it's all brick, I really think it's all brick, and I have a lot of reasons why I think that, and why I think that they've used these false facades, and why I think the Freemasons are full of shit, and the Finding Fathers, and all these different things. And it's hard for me to get it all on one big video. So over the course of however many months, I've been making all these little tiny videos, reinforcing all these different ideas more and more about the bricks, about the architecture, the importance, the electricity, all these different components, the hydroelectricity, all these different things. I'm building and building and building and building all to this different thing. And as I'm learning, you guys are learning, and we're taking this journey together. Just like when I go out and about, I'm gonna do lives, like all this really cool shit. It's gonna be neat. Like I'm actually looking forward to it. And any support that anybody wants to help, great. I can only do so much on my own, and like if like there's like places I want to do tours of and things like that. So that's something to discuss down the road. And it's whatever. I'm gonna do what I can, but just keep in mind the fact that I'm choosing to like sleep outside and like hitchhike and do all this stuff too. It's a lifestyle that I've lived before, but like I'm doing that so I can save money. So me like stopping in every single city and going to every museum, it's just not going to happen. I'll do it when I can, but it's going to be really hard doing it all by myself. You know what I mean? I don't. I do this because I enjoy it, and like I want to share my findings with you guys, and that's this is like a diary for me, not diary, but it's like a way to jot down my ideas and share and express it. But it's also I get to share it with other people, and maybe I can help someone expand something to understand more, or vice versa. And it's this whole thing of like sharing and vice versa, and whatever the case may be. So once again, I appreciate anybody that wants to join me on this journey, and whatever we find out is going to be interesting, and there's more to come for sure. And this is it, guys. So um, yeah, so oh yeah, about to get started here in a sec, guys. Just give me. I honestly, I've already talked for like 3 or 4 hours today, and I have no issues continuing on. I hope you guys don't mind me taking little breaks here and there. I can only consistently talk for so long. I feel like I need like background elevator music or something to like break the silence when I'm trying to like take puffs off of my joint and stuff while we're doing this. But anyway, so the legendary Tesla coil. Tesla had used coils and capacitors when experimenting with rotating magnetic fields for his motors. He continually refined the components, particularly the special transformer or coil at the heart of the circuit, taking out his first patent for the device to run a new and more efficient lighting system in 1891. The basic circuit connected a power supply to a large capacitor, the coil or inductor, and the electrodes of an adjustable spark gap. As the capacitor charges up, the voltage lags behind. In an inductor, voltage is felt immediately while the current is held back, as it has to work against the magnetic field its own passage causes. If the size of the coil and condenser are selected to have exactly opposite timing, with voltage peaking in the capacitor just as it reaches a minimum in the coil, current and voltage can be made to chase each other back and forth. This oscillation is initiated by the spark gap. When the voltage in a capacitor builds up, It reaches a level when the air in the gap, which acts as an insulator, breaks down due to the so did like do you think maybe there's like this transmission that they were doing and like something went wrong and that's like what caused all this bad like is that what one of the air quotations once again resets happen like was did something go wrong in the sense like see how they're explaining that and like it's interesting. I'm curious. I'm curious for sure. So the spark gap. When the voltage in the capacitor builds up, it reaches a level when the air in the gap, which acts as an insulator, breaks down due to the ionization and lets the current flow. In a Tesla coil, the inductor is the primary coil of a transformer. When because wouldn't that create heat like a lot of heat? Like I'm just it's like I'm not like I said I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't know too much about that, so I'm just going off like basic shit that I know. So I know there's people out there smarter than me about this kind of stuff that can explain that more. But like trying to understand the plasma event this might be like an interesting explanation to that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if you guys. Sorry, I was reading the comments. Where was I? So in a Tesla coil, the inductor is the primary coil of a transformer. When the circuit sparks, all the energy stored over several microseconds is discharged in a powerful impulse, producing a high voltage in the secondary coil. Once the energy has been discharged, the voltage across the spark gap falls and the air becomes an insulator again until the voltage in the capacitor builds up. So it's like this back and forth. These two fields are like playing off each other, and it's like the flicker on and off of the electricity, which is interesting. Okay, so once the energy has been discharged, the voltage across the spark gap falls and the air becomes the insulator again until the voltage in the capacitor builds up to the required level again. This whole process can repeat itself many thousands of times per second. Interesting, interesting. In a Tesla coil, secondary winding when they say winding, I think they're referring to the copper wire wrapped around the what is the iron ore or the iron is it iron that they're using for these motors and whatnot? I'm pretty sure it is because I mean it would be magnetic, right? Anyway, so the secondary winding is designed to react quickly to a sudden energy spike. These electrical impulses propagate along the winding as waves. The length of the coil is calculated so there's some math so as to how many times you wrap the copper as well plays a role. But what do they say? The length of the wire, the coil as well. This is calculated so that when the wave crests reach the end and are reflected back, they meet and reinforce the waves behind them. So it appears that the voltage peaks are standing still. If the high voltage end of the secondary coil is attached to an aerial, it becomes a powerful radio transmitter. In the early decades of radio, most practicable radio transmitters used Tesla coils. Tesla himself. So I mean, people could convert. Is that suggesting that all these people that like have like play like novelty Tesla coils, they could be like transmitting radio signals and whatnot back to themselves, like to their friends and stuff? Is that what that's suggesting? I'm curious. Maybe I'm misreading that. I'm not sure, guys. So, uh, practical practical radio transmitters use Tesla. Tesla himself used larger or smaller versions of his inventions to investigate fluorescence, X-rays, radio, wireless power, and even the electromagnetic. He's like the dude. Like he did it all, didn't he? Like apparently. So like I have mixed. Like I said, guys, obviously I have mixed feelings about this. Yeah, the winding size and shape dictate. Oh, yeah, cool. But there's obviously some math involved in that as well. Like we'd be able to calculate, okay, if I have this amount of wire and it gets wrapped this amount of times, I'm going to get X whatever, and the size of each of those things that it's being wound around as well. So how many different experiments would you have to go through? It's almost like you'd have to do like one size at a time. It's like a butt plug. You start with the smallest thing and work your way up, right, guys? I'm sorry, I'm just fucking with you. So where was I? But yeah, like that's a lot of experimentation. So how many people were doing all these experiments, and how much wire was used, and who was like covering these initial like budgets to figure all this stuff out? It's interesting. Like I said, it's just more questions that may or may not get answered, but they are fun to think about. Here, I'll let you guys look at that while I'm talking about the next section. So Tesla was advised to play down the possibilities of his wireless system. Who advised him and why? Play down the possibilities. So he probably did it, made it happen, but they're just like, no, 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 don't. It's like the people that make the water cars and shit like that. Yeah, don't advertise that shit because you're gonna end up shot or whatever somewhere or disappeared or unalive, whatever people want to say, right? So someone was like, don't do that. But anyways, it seemed so fanciful, it might deter conservative businessmen. Yeah, of course, it's all about the money, who might otherwise be interested in his motors or his lighting systems. Nevertheless, he said it earned him the title of the father of the wireless. Yeah, he had a big ego as well, clearly, and some emotional issues if you look back at his history and what we were discussing yesterday. So, among fellow researchers, others had investigated the phenomena of wireless transmission before him, but Tesla had pioneered the use of the tuned circuit, the aerial and the ground connection. He was giving these demonstrations of wireless transmission a full year before Guglielmo Marconi even began experimenting. In 1896, Tesla received a letter from Sir William Preece of the Imperial Post Office in London asking for Tesla for 2 wireless sets for trial. But Marconi was in London by then. He intervened, telling Preece that he had tried the Tesla system and it had not worked. Nevertheless, it's like this boohoo story about Tesla. A lot of it, it's like he got beat up, he got robbed, he got ripped off by his business mates, he got like kicked out of companies that he helped start, like all this fucking shit. Like there's all these things like constantly, like poor Tesla, like poor little. It's like this like story of Rudy. I just like he every all the odds were against him, but he just kept. It's like a fucking movie, guys. Like I don't know. Anyways, that's just how I feel. So, where was I? He intervened, telling Priest that he had tried the Tesla system. Nevertheless, Tesla filed a patent for wireless transmission in September 1897. I'd like to see that patent. That'd be interesting to have a look at. Alrighty, so conspiring with the devil is the next section. In St. Louis, Missouri, 4,000 copies of a small circulation electrical journal. It's a great movie script. Yeah, I mean, come on, I'd like to. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, we should just make this into a movie and like show people, like, yeah, look at this fucking degenerate, gambling, womanizing, whatever. Like, yeah, he's just like a movie. He's just like a rock star at this point, right? Fucking guy. Anyway, so electrical journal, small, were sold because it carried an article about Tesla. So he's like their little fanboy. Like they prop him up. Ooh, Tesla! Ladies were like blowing him kisses, throwing their panties at him, or whatever. Anyways, sorry guys, I cracked myself up. Anyways, so when Tesla came to town, 80 electrical utility wagons paraded down the street. See, I haven't even got this. This is the first time I've read this actually. So, 80 electrical utility wagons. It's like you're getting like a live. You know how when people do those reaction videos. This is like my reaction video because whatever I've read from before, I don't remember, and I haven't even read this far in the book yet. I had a flash of inspiration. I even put the book down. I like read like one chapter, and like all this shit started flowing through my head. I was like, nope, I gotta close this for a while, and it inspired a lot of interesting ideas and whatever. But anyhow, so when Tesla came to town, they were parading his ass around, and because he's the be all end all, the father of everything, the wireless. So, where were we? The 4,000 seat Grand Music Entertainment Hall was filled to the overcapacity as several thousand more packed in. Tickets were being sold for scalpers for between $3 and $5, so $80 and $130 at today's prices. Shit. Like, how much is a concert these days, guys? Like, if I wanted to go see Justin Bieber in concert, how much is that going to cost me? Like, who's more famous? Do you think the father of wireless or Justin Bieber? Like, who do you think when Tesla was like on stage, do you think he was like covering one eye or like making like the little 666 symbols and stuff? Like, do you think he had to like hold one hand in his pocket? Like, I'm not sure if I've seen any poses of him doing that. So, doesn't just because you don't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen. But like, I'm just trying to be funny here. But anyhow, so very expensive tickets. Tesla did not disappoint, passing 200,000 volts through his body. He described the experiments. If you guys didn't hear the earlier slide, I was talking about how Edison was like shitting on his work, and he had this guy going around killing animals and puppies and shit, electrocuting them to tell them that Tesla's shit was dangerous when it actually wasn't. So they were like fudging the numbers and trying to make him look bad. Now people figured it out, but it was already kind of too late. And he was already discredited or like made to look bad, or whatever the case may be. So he passed that shit through his body and described the experiment in his published lecture. So the next little part I'm going to read is apparently Tesla's words. So I now set the coil to work and approach the free terminal with a metallic object held in my hand. This simply to avoid burns. As I approached the metallic object to a distance of 8 or 10 inches, a torrent of furious sparks breaks forth from the end of the secondary wire, which passes through the rubber column. The sparks cease when the metal in my hand touches the wire. My arm is now traversed by a powerful electric current, vibrating at the rate of 1,000,000 times a second. All around me, the electrostatic force makes itself felt, and the air molecules and particles of dust flying about are acted upon and are hammering violently against my body. So great is the agitation of the particles that when the lights are turned out, you may see streams of feeble light appear on some parts of my body. When such a streamer breaks out on any part of the body, it produces a sensation like the pricking of a needle. Were the potential sufficiently high and the frequency of the vibrations rather low, the skin would probably be ruptured under the tremendous strain, and the blood would rush out with great force in the form of a fine spray or jet so thin as to be. This is really like descriptive. Like he should have been writing like horror novels or whatever. Like fuck. Like I'm really picturing. I'm like, are you guys seeing this as he's explaining? This is funny. Sorry. So ruptured under the tremendous strain, and the blood would rush out with great force in the form of a fine spray or jet so thin as to be invisible, just as oil will when placed on the positive terminal of a Holtz machine. Is he like selling products? Like it sounds, doesn't that sound like, you know how they like product placement? Yeah. How else could you do it unless you had the Holtz machine, the positive terminal? You know, like, do you guys see how silly history can be? Maybe I'm making it silly, but it seems silly to me, at least when I'm reading it. But that's my opinion. Anyways, the Holtz machine. Like, I feel like I'm getting sold on something here. So, the breaking through of the skin, though, as it may seem impossible at first, would perhaps occur by the reason of the tissues under the skin being incomparably better at conducting. This at least appears plausible, judging from some observations. I can make the streams of light visible to all by touching with a metallic object one of the terminals as before, and approaching my free hand to the brass sphere, which is connected to the second terminal of the coil. As the hand is approached, the air between it and the sphere, or in the immediate neighborhood, is more violently agitated, and you see streams of light now break forth from my fingertips and from the whole hand. Were I to approach the hand closer, powerful sparks would jump from the brass sphere to my hand, which might be injurious. The streamers offer no particular inconvenience, except that in the ends of the fingertips a burning sensation is felt. How about them apples? What do you guys think about that? Did that feel like an infomercial or something? Like about the Holtz machine? Like, I don't know. It's just like some of the stuff when I read it, it seems silly to me, guys. I don't know about the rest of you, but whatever the case may be. So the next little section here. What time is it, guys? Alright, so let me see where we are as far as chapters go. Let's see how much we'll do tonight. It's a big chapter. I think I can read a bit more. Oh, tomorrow's going to be fun, guys. Tomorrow, and this is actually funny because I'm going to do that tour in Niagara Falls that he was involved in, and the next chapter is actually about that. So I'll save that for tomorrow. We'll continue. We're almost done this chapter. There's like a few more pages, and then we'll have a discussion, and I think that would be quite enjoyable. I'd like to hear you guys' voices and have a good little discussion on this. So I'm gonna run down through this, and then we'll go back over whatever necessary. So the inventors of early electric lighting knew two ways to produce illumination: either by creating a spark or an arc between electrodes, or by running a current through a wire or fiber, heating it up until it glowed. Arc lamps, I wonder where they got that idea from initially. Anyway, so arc lamps are very bright and were used in searchlights, floodlights, lighthouses, and movie projectors. They were not suitable for domestic use, but heated filaments also have their drawbacks. Most materials don't behave well when heated near their melting points. They oxidize unless surrounded by a vacuum or inert gas, or break apart through internal stress. In 1878, Thomas Edison, the following year, independently developed the carbon filament bulb. This was Did you guys know that there's actually, I made a video a long time ago, there's this bulb, I think it's like in California or something, it's in this fire hall, and it's been running for like 100 and some odd years, and it's never burnt out. Take care, man. It's never burnt out, and It's still running years and years, so that makes me think about like planned obsolescence and whatnot. They can make everything last for a lifetime. They just don't. It's just we don't want to get. We're not going to get in that subject right now. But so planned obsolescence, something to think about. The following year, independently developed the carbon filament. Yeah, so this was superseded by the more efficient tungsten filament bulb in 1908. However, there is another problem with the incandescent lamps. In a domestic 60-watt light bulb, for example, no more than a few percent of the energy radiated is visible. Most is lost as heat. But in 1859, Alexander, I can't even fucking pronounce his name, Becquerel, maybe, discovered that certain substances fluoresce when a current was passed through a geyser tube, that is, a partially evacuated glass cylinder. Tesla developed this into the phosphorescent lamp. Phosphorescent substances are slower to emit light than fluorescent ones and continue to glow for some time after the power switched off. He began by powering conventional filament or arc lamps with high frequency currents. This caused the diffused gases inside to glow and made certain solid materials give off light. The bulbs remained cold because most of the electrical energy passed through them turned into light, rather than heat. Consequently, they were more efficient, but although he used these experiments to illustrate his celebrated lectures, he seldom patented them. Yeah, that's what they were saying in the first couple of chapters. They were saying that he was just such a fucking busy guy, he couldn't even be bothered to patent any of his shit. Like, just how ridiculous. Like, because he's got such a big ego. You look at all these little stories and you look at him from like a psychological, sociological standpoint. He is jealous. He had a big ego. He had problems with addiction. All these things. Do you really think that? Oh shit! Well, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Can someone help me out there? I lost what I was saying. Ah, fuck. What was I saying? I was going somewhere with that, and I don't remember what happened. Can someone please just? What was I talking about? Sometimes that happens. Like I'll get on this train, and then like I jump off the train. And it's like shit. I can't get back on the train of thought. That is. Where was I? So this causes diffused glass inside the globe made certain solid materials give off light. The bulbs remain cold because most of the electrical energy passed through them turned into light rather than heat. Consequently, they were more efficient. But although he used experiments to illustrate his celebrated lectures, he seldom patented them. Yeah, go right. So I was talking about patents. Yeah, like he had such a big ego. There's no way he wouldn't patent shit. Are you kidding me? Like, see, like there's so much contradictory information that one side is saying one thing, and then we have another. The tether disconnected to the source where the knowledge is taken from. Interesting. But like, either he was too busy or like it sounds like bullshit. Like, based on the personality and his behavior tells me a lot about his personality. So when you look at his personality and then you look at the information being presented, it tells me that it's something that doesn't make sense based on all of that. So but once again, guys, it's just how I perceive what I'm reading. We're all reading the same book, and you and I, whoever's here, might get all different ideas about this particular subject. So, patents. Yeah, having developed apparatuses that produce higher frequencies and voltages than were available to anyone else. By 1890, he was able to light phosphorescent tubes. Phosphorescent tubes without connecting wires. Very interesting. Wireless. The energy was transmitted to them at radio frequencies at higher energies. Tesla's tubes gave off X-rays. They theorize every thought we have is received from someplace we cannot visibly see in physicality. Yeah, they definitely come from somewhere. Check this out. Tatton's patent application for apparatus for transmitting electrical energy. How about that? So tuning into early radio. So I have to sip my drink before I continue reading here, guys. It's too bad Buddy jumped out here. We're getting close to the World's Fair Chicago information. But anyway, so tuning into the early radio. Radio communication uses electromagnetic waves. Everything is about electromagnets. Cool stuff. So, right? Copper? Should I wrap my body in copper? Should I have some antennas coming off of my body? I've thought about it. Maybe those like hippie crystal chicks are onto something, like wrapping the crystals with the copper and connecting it to their body somehow. there's always something to something. Just like tinfoil hats. I think they're, if there's voice to skull technology and they can like send information and fuck with you and like talk in your brain and stuff, then maybe there's a thing, mate. Obviously, the idea came from somewhere. Someone thought they had to put something over their head to block out external thoughts. And, maybe 20, 30 years ago, that might have sounded weird, but to me, that doesn't sound too weird anymore. But once again, my opinion. So, radio communications, electromagnetism. So, in the range of frequencies lying between around 1 hertz or 1 cycle per second and a few gigahertz or 1,000 million cycles per second, the wavelength of electromagnetic radiation is the distance from one crest to the next. In an ordinary AM broadcast signal, say about 1,000 kilohertz on the AM dial, wave crests are spaced about 969 feet apart. The number of crests going by in 1 second is called the frequency. In all the waves, the frequency multiplied by the wavelength equals the velocity. The velocity of radio waves is the speed of light. That's interesting, man. That's definitely something to think about for sure. The height of a wave is called its amplitude. Sorry, I'm trying to get through this. I'm getting tired, so I want to get through this chapter. I am trying to read your comments, and I appreciate your input as well. So don't take that the wrong way. So the height of a wave is called its amplitude. In radio waves, it is given in volts. For waves of the same voltage or amplitude, the more of them that arrive per second, the higher the energy. So higher frequency gives more power. A single burst of high-frequency gamma rays is extremely dangerous, while the lower frequencies of a radio disperse more easily and pack less of a punch. Radio communication requires a transmitter that produces a signal powerful enough to be detected some distance away while at the same time incorporating useful information in that signal. The receiver must be able to pick up the signal and extract the information. One scientist had understood the nature of the electromagnetic waves and detected them. The race was on to produce frequencies and voltages high enough to make wireless transmission. With what he called the magnifier coil, now known as the Tesla coil, Tesla had found a way to produce both. It quickly became clear to Tesla that once radio transmission had become practical, the airwaves would be full of signals. So, if he knew that the radio waves was the start, and they knew that it was possible, like, why aren't we using it? Like, I mean, we know the answer, but, like, just speaking in general, like, why aren't we utilizing this stuff? They're charging us for something that we could have for free, and that's obviously something I've been talking about for a while, guys. Yeah, but you know what? I've actually been in and around some star forts, and under that grass, those mounds, it's all brick. It's bricked up tunnels, like little archway tunnels going through these star forts. So maybe the initial shape might have created through cymatics, and then they went and dug it in. That doesn't really make sense to me. It's a structure they built with brick. The brick. There's something about brick. It's important, what it's the housing. It houses that the electricity or whatever the case may be. So to say that they made some sound frequency shit and the shit just lifted out of the earth, that doesn't really make sense to me, because I've seen these star forts, some of them, and it's brick in there. So I question the cymatics. I get it. Cymatics is a thing. It's super important. Definitely plays a role. I think it plays more a role in the rosary and the church windows than it does with the star forts. But that's just me. I have a lot of questions about star forts, and I bring it up a lot because when I'm talking to other people in the lives about the architecture in particular, because it's the one thing that I haven't been able to investigate as much. I've been to a couple star forts, but it's not enough for me to get a bigger, wider picture. Not like some of the other buildings that I've been investigating and looking around at. So it's quite interesting. Where was I? Once it became practical, the airwaves would be full of signals. What was needed was a way to develop circuits that worked on pre-selected frequencies so that a desired signal could be picked out from among a background of static and unrelated radio traffic. He perfected tuning, which lies at the heart of all communication systems today. How about that? So, the streams of light which you have observed issuing from my hand are due to a potential... Oh, shit, I think I missed... Oh, was there more from what he was saying? Oh, I apologize. So, the streams of light which you have observed issuing from my hand, this is Tesla talking, from my hand are due to a potential of about 200,000 volts, alternating in rather irregular intervals, sometimes like 1,000,000 times a second. A vibration of the same amplitude but 4 times as fast to maintain, which over 3 million volts would be required, would be more than sufficient to envelop my body in a complete sheet of flame. But this flame would not burn me up. Quite contrarily, the probability is that I would not be injured in the least. Yet 100th part of that energy, otherwise directed, would be amply sufficient to kill a person. Very, very interesting. So, waving various shaped tubes in the powerful electromagnetic field his oscillating transformer had produced, so that makes me think of the Earth as well, like what we were discussing earlier. So, had produced, Tesla created beautiful effects like the spokes of a wheel of glowing moonbeams. The electrical engineer said, towards the end of the performance, Tesla held up one of his phosphorescent lamps, the precursor of fluorescent lights, and announced that he would illuminate it by touching the terminal of his oscillating transformer with his other hand. When he did, the lamp lit up. There was a stampede in the 2 upper galleries, and they all rushed out, said Tesla. They thought it was some part of the devil's work. Can you imagine? Well, don't they say like some high forms of technology could seem like magic to someone if you don't really know or understand it? It's not something you've ever experienced. So I feel like that's something I've heard before in the past, and I'm sure you guys have too. I'm sure you've heard about that. So, carrying on, an all-American joke. Returning to New York, Tesla acquired his U.S. citizenship to get back at Edison for his jibe years earlier. His jibe, like a jab, like how are they saying that? It's like a dig or a put down. So yeah, years of earlier of you are still a Parisian. Yeah, so making fun of him or putting him down. Tesla decided now that he was a fully fledged American. To find out if Edison could take an all-American joke, he set up an experiment pitting a carbon filament incandescent light that Edison had invented against an identical bulb that was empty. Applying a current at a frequency of around 1,000,000 cycles per second, the empty bulb glowed brightly, more brightly than Edison's bulb, which was being run on direct current. What's more, the empty bulb stayed cool to the touch. Edison was far from amused, and once again Tesla had shot down his former mentor in the popular press. An incandescent light bulb is only 5% efficient. The other 95% is lost in the form of heat. That's like a lot of artificial lighting, to be honest. And then there's what's that word? The diminishing returns, like like especially like indoor gardening and stuff too. Like the further you away from your artificial light source, yeah, like the amount of light drops like significantly. Like it's really crazy. So you got to keep your lights in like there's this like perfect zone. Anyways, that's something completely different. Where was I? So, an incandescent light bulb, yeah. So, this was a waste. Tesla said was on par with the wanton destruction of the whole forest for the sake of a few sticks of lumber. So, Tesla keeps inventing. However, to Tesla, the attention of the press was a distraction. He went to work, so he was getting chased by the paparazzi. That's what's happening there? So, he went to work increasing the power of his oscillators until he reached 1,000,000 volts. Then he immersed a high-frequency oscillator in a vat of oil. By modulating the frequency, he could get the oil to rotate at different rates. Oh, so he's playing with some sound technology there. That's cool. That's cool. So yeah, you guys ever see that thing with the water and then passing the sound through it and like zigzags in the air and does some crazy shit? You guys, I'm sure you guys have seen that video before. Sound is quite amazing what you can do with it, high and low frequencies. So anyway, so where was I? He reached 1,000,000 volts. Then he immersed a high frequency oscillator in a vat of oil. Yep, we mentioned that. Tesla then invented a new steam-driven generator that produced as much power as 140 times its size. Instead of using the piston action of the steam engine to turn a crankshaft and flywheel, which then turned the generator, he put the cylinder inside the coils of the generator so that the metal pistons moving up and down generated electricity. Interesting. So, Chicago World's Fairs. I don't know how to describe how they're breaking up these different sections. Like there's parts and there's chapters, and then within these parts there's all these little small sections. But anyway, so Chicago World's Fairs, 1893. Everyone loves this for whatever reason. Oh, I know what reason. I already explained earlier. So, Westinghouse had won the contract to light the World's Columbian Exposition, aka the Chicago World's Fair. So in May 1893, by putting in a bid much lower than that of the General Electric, which now owned Edison's patents, the buildings at the fair were to be illuminated with 200,000 bulbs. So this was an ideal opportunity to demonstrate how Tesla's AC system could be used to light an entire city. This is actually a really cool photo, guys. Check this out. So this is it at night. Hold on. Get my hand out of the way. Oh. See, guys, one of the details that I notice about the architecture, because like when you do a trade, whatever trade you do, you always notice that shit everywhere. Okay. Oh shit. There's okay. You see these railings? Every every single fucking city that you look at around the world, major city, it's this exact same railings. I'm always talking about them. Always noticing. And I'm gonna tell you guys a little secret because there's only a few guys listening here. So you know how people the you were on that like 6 hour documentary that everyone talks about, everyone's always telling me to watch, and they're saying that the triumphant archways are big magnets. I don't believe that. Okay, and here's why. So I noticed this reoccurring pattern while I was traveling. What they do is they take the buildings and they destroy them, but then they leave one thing, and it's the entrance. They leave the entrances to the buildings, and I have like video and photographic evidence of them doing this. It's a very regular thing. Sorry, excuse me. So, I don't think the triumphant arches are large magnets. I think they are the entrance ways to very, very large buildings. Do you see it? I know I've been seeing it for a while, and I've been trying to tell other people about it. Whatever, like we all have our differing opinions and stuff, but the one thing, I'm never gonna sit here and tell you guys that this is the be all end all. I have my opinions and I have reasons for thinking that way, but like when I watch documentaries and people are telling me this is what it is, this is the answer, go back to sleep, everything's okay. Like I always want to look more and I want to look for my own reasons. So yeah, I think that they're actually larger entranceways to actually like really, really, because a lot of these buildings we're looking at, they're pretty big, but I'm talking about like super mega structures. But that's once again my opinion. What that's worth? I mean, to me, a lot. But like you guys gotta see that stuff for yourself. But what I'm trying to do a lot with my page too is make you guys notice this stuff, make you notice the fine details, make you notice the columns and the purpose. Everything is about symmetry as well. There's a reason everything is perfect, and you have the same patterns again and again. It's for things to flow properly, so to speak, through these buildings. If you think about them like from an electrical standpoint, but same buildings everywhere you go. And there's another point I need to bring this up again because I keep forgetting to talk about it. That's a good. This is good because I'll look back at this. Shit. Where was I going with that? Sorry, I get sidetracked. Oh yeah, so a lot of buildings, even here in Canada. So what we see is there's the cathedrals and churches where they look very like bland. There's the usual interesting stuff, but they've removed this upper section, and I've shown it in videos where you see the before and after. They're removing the pieces of antenna or technology or something, and that's why you see some of these churches where it's just that flat top where you think there should be more. This is a picture of Chicago World's Fair. So, like, we're told that they built this in 2 years and then they destroyed it after, and like it's a lot of work. Like I don't know if anybody here has done construction or site development, but the amount of work just for some of these smaller places with like a lot of different trades and all these different things all trying to work. There's no way they built this in 2 years. Just the foundation alone, digging. I think they had hand tools. Okay, so that's the thing. So either we've been lied to about everything. Like they actually had like bulldozers, technology. They weren't doing it all by hand, or these people that came were different and they were doing it by hand because that's all they knew or could do. You know what I mean? They were just working around what was already there. So there's definitely some differing opinions about this subject. But yeah, so they removed this extra stuff. These pieces, they are removing these all around. So I'm seeing evidence of that as well. So I find that quite interesting. Interesting indeed. So, the Electricity Pavilion at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, 1893. Very cool. Let me see where we're at, guys. We're starting to drain and wane. Okay, so we're all okay. Cool. We're almost done. I can read that. All right. Are you guys? It would take decades. Not to mention they had to get a. Yeah. So where were they harvesting the material? Because I've seen castles where they quarried right on the spot, but you got to think all the fill, all the soil, bringing with the water to fill the lagoons and the lakes and the canals. There, all the stonework, the masonry, all the different trades, the woodwork, all these different things. For me, And I've said this earlier in the live, and I've said this before, different videos, different things. The World's Fairs were already there. The old world museums of that day. The things that they were showing everybody was already there, and they were acting like they built it themselves. That's what I think. So General Electric had initially estimated that it would cost $1.8 million to light the fair. When this was rejected, they revised it down to $554,000. Westinghouse came in at $399. So at that price, so he undercut them, which is good. Westinghouse had to devise a more economical system in less than 6 months. They designed and built bigger generators than had ever been built before, just breaking all kinds of records. What a guy. So, using AC at high voltage, they could distribute this throughout the fair on thin wires, saving hundreds of thousands. So, why didn't he do it wirelessly? Couldn't he have done it at that point in time? I'm curious. So, they could distribute this throughout the fair on thin wires, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of copper. The fair site would be a blaze of light, but a lot of these fairs too, but they were like donations. Like, if you look at the history of some of the world's fairs, you got these like philanthropists like donating all kinds of money and land and this, that, and the next thing. So like, why would this be such an issue? So it's, excuse me, things to think about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. You can only say you invented it, but that's the thing. A lot of these guys are dead and not around, so we can't really question them, can we? As to what they did and how they did it, we only get secondhand information a lot of times, which is frustrating. But we do the best we can with the information that's provided. So, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of copper. The fair site would be a blaze of light and consume 3 times the amount of electricity than being utilized by the whole of the city of Chicago. Westinghouse had also come up with a new design for an incandescent lamp to avoid infringing Edison's patents and manufactured 250,000 of them. Consequently, when Westinghouse went to see Tesla when he arrived back in New York, he had not put much thought to promoting his motors or his polyphase system, but realizing the importance of the World's Fair as a showcase, Tesla went to Pittsburgh, he said, to bring the motor to high perfection. All right, so words are not enough. Are you guys ready for this? The Columbian Exposition covered almost 700 fucking acres. Do you guys know how big 1 acre looks like? What that looks like? Does anybody? A fucking acre? So 700 acres. So not only were they building all this, they had to clear the land. So they wouldn't have just been digging; they would have had to clear out trees. Think about how much work it takes to get a fucking stump out of the ground. Like this already set. Like I can just like I'm super allergic to bullshit. I'm starting to get runny nose. Like same thing happened the other night. Like the more shit that I read, the more like I have a reaction to. Anyways, like I'm like half joking, but I'm being serious too. But anyways, so 700 fucking acres and attracted 28 million visitors from all over the world. The centerpiece was a Ferris wheel. That's another weird thing. There's Ferris wheels all around. This spinning thing, was it a part of a larger system? Like, was it really like a recreational or a fun thing? Was it like powering something? It was doing? I think it was doing something. The Ferris wheels, and they turned it into something else. But whatever. Anyways, so the centerpiece was a Ferris wheel standing 264 feet in the air, or 80 meters high. It could carry over 2,000 people. It revolved on the largest one-piece axle ever forged. But it was Westinghouse's illuminations that took the breath away. The former governor of Illinois, Willie Cameron, said, "Inadequate words have been found to convey a realizing idea of the beauty and grandeur of the spectacle which the exposition offers by day. They are infinitely less capable of affording the slightest conception of the dazzling spectacle which greets the eye of the visitor at night. Indescribable by language are the electric fountains, one of them called the Great Geyser. It rises to 100 and where were they getting the fucking water pressure to shoot water 150 feet in the air? Like, have you guys ever like done anything with water, plumbing, hydroponics, any of that shit? Like, just get stuff in like the amount of head pressure that you would need to shoot water that far in the air, and this is what, the late 1800s? Like, ow, what were they doing? Jesus. Anyway, so uh, indescribable by language are the electric. Yeah, so above a band of little geysers, so bewildering. No, see, even they thought it was fucking crazy. No eyes can find the loveliest. Their vagaries of motion so entrancing, no heart can keep it steady beating. How about that? We're getting there, guys. We're almost through this. Thank you for being here. So, visiting the Electricity Pavilion. At the Chicago World's Fair, the Electricity Pavilion rose to 169 feet, or 52 meters, and covered 3.5 acres, the size of 2 soccer fields. In it, AEG exhibited the equipment they had used to transmit AC, the record-breaking 109 miles, from Laufen to Frankfurt in Germany. GE also demonstrated their new AC system. Both were technically infringing Tesla's patents, but Westinghouse made no objection as it helped to demonstrate the superiority of AC. Yeah, if you can't beat them, join them, right, guys? Anyway, so instead they erected a 45-foot, 14-meter-high monument to the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Co. Tesla polyphase system. That was a fucking long one, Jesus. So, not to be outshone, GE erected 82-foot, 25-meter tower of light in the center of the Electricity Pavilion with 18,000 bulbs around the pedestal, which was topped by a huge Edison light bulb. Other stands showed electric body invigorators, charged belts, electricity hairbrushes. What? Charged belts and electricity hairbrushes. That seems like that was worded wrong. So, it was then thought that electricity could cure all ills. Maybe it can. Like, what the fuck do we know? Like, modern medicine is obviously full of fucking shit, like jamming their fucking petroleum fucking products down our throats that, like, fuck that shit, man. Like, anyway, so, it's all bullshit. Even the education surrounding it, but that's totally another topic, guys. So, Tower of Light... Other stands show, that you could heal or cure ills. Someone exhibited a high-frequency coil that could produce a spark 5 feet long. Alexander Graham Bell launched a telephone that transmitted sound on a beam of light, while Elisha Gray unveiled a prototype fax machine called I can't read that, telotography. Maybe? I don't know, guys. I've never read that word in my life. For a few cents, you could have your signature reproduced electronically at a distance. Edison himself exhibited his phonograph, the multiplex telegraph, and his kinetoscope, which produced moving pictures for an individual viewer. How about that? So, on the Westinghouse stand, Tesla exhibited AC motors, generators, and had the names of famous electrical pioneers, all spelt out in phosphorescent tubes, along with that of... He sounds like such a fanboy. It's really funny when you listen to some of the stuff that he was doing. But anyway, so a huge flashing neon sign saying Westinghouse and welcome electricians were lit by discharges of artificial lighting that made a deafening sound among the flashing sparks in the tubes. Yeah, imagine if, like, we could have free energy, but, like, you just hear, like, this loud, like all the time, like just like this. It's like because it's being sent wirelessly, but it ends up like producing this like super loud noise, like there's like thunder during a lightning storm or whatever the case may be. Like, would you like trade? Like, would you rather not have to hear that noise all the time, or would you rather have free electricity? It's something funny and interesting to think about. So yeah. He's spelling out these. He's a fanboy for all these like famous pioneers, putting their names up. Huge flashing neon signs. They were super loud. Among the flashing sparks and tubes lit wirelessly was a large egg of Columbus spinning furiously. If you guys were listening earlier, I was talking about Columbus, and I never heard the story of the Columbus egg and how he ended up getting to go on his journey. It's such a silly game because they're saying that they were trying to get, the challenge was to get an egg to stand up, so he just fucking smushed the bottom of it so it'd stand up, and the queen was like, yes, you can go on the journey, Columbus, because you're the smartest of us all. It's just like, it sounds like fucking ridiculousness. But anyway, so I mean, we all know it's bullshit, but the more we read into it, the more bullshit we realize it truly is. So there was a large egg Columbus spinning furiously because he made a point to make a metal egg that spun or stood upright, or he was going to do something different. That's how he got his job with Westinghouse. He was like, yo, watch this. I'm pretty sure it was Westinghouse or someone else, and they were like, yeah, I can do better than Columbus. And he's like, I can make this egg do this without even having to break it or smash it or whatever the case may be. So, the Wizard of Physics. Tesla visited the World's Fair in August to put on a week of demonstrations, and to attend the International Electric Congress being held there. Its honorary chairman was Helmholtz, who Tesla showed his personal exhibit. 1,000 electrical engineers attended, including most of the leaders in the field. $10 were offered for seats to see Tesla, who was introduced as the Wizard of Physics. However, entrance was limited to those who could produce the appropriate credentials. Tesla demonstrated the mechanical oscillators and steam generators that were so small it was said they could fit in the crown of a hat. He produced motors that could run so precisely they could be used as electric clocks and continuous wave radio transmitter, the implications of which were lost on most of his distinguished audience. He also, he was basically talking to peasants at that point in time. So he probably looked at them that way too. He also exhibited a version of the egg of Columbus, which he demonstrated his theory of planetary motion. The electrical experimenter said. The electrical experimenter. Sorry, that was an egg joke, dad joke. Sorry. In this experiment, one large and several small brass balls were usually employed. When the field was energized, all the balls would be set spinning. The large one remaining in the center, while the small one revolves around it while the small ones revolved around it, like moons about a planet, gradually receding until they reached the outer guard and raced along the same field. But the demonstration which most impressed the audiences was the simultaneous operation of numerous balls, pivoted discs, and other devices placed in all sorts of positions and at considerable distances from the rotating field. When the currents were turned on and the whole animated with motion, it was presented an unforgettable spectacle. Mr. Tesla had many vacuum bulbs in which small light metal discs were pivotally arranged on jewels, and these would spin anywhere in the ball when the iron ring was energized. The Columbian Exposition had proved to its 28 million visitors that AC was safe. From then on, over 80% of all electrical devices in the U.S. worked on alternating current. Yeah, they were shitting on him hard. So the story says. Like trying to make him look bad, say it wasn't good, whatever, but they were just jelly. They were jealous. They're like, oh shit, he's obviously got a better product. The only thing we can do. So first they were making fun of him, make him look bad. Let's do all this shit, and finally they were like, fuck it. See, it's obviously a better one. So like I said, can't beat him, join him. So they started making their own shit. Cool. Where did I leave off? Yeah, it had proved that it was safe. Just became the standard. Tesla's famous friends. We're getting there, guys. Couple more pages, and then we'll have a good little discussion. I appreciate if you guys are down. Just bear with me. We'll get through this right quick, and then I really want to talk to you guys, so I'll try to read this as quickly as possible. So, Tesla's famous friends. As a result, Tesla was proclaimed our foremost electrician and hailed as the new Edison, but Tesla's health was failing again due to overwork. Tesla's friend, Thomas Comerford Martin, introduced him to the socialites Robert and Catherine Underwood Johnson, who took him under their wing. Tesla began calling him the Filipovs after a Serbian poem. He translated for them. Robert Johnson was the associate editor of the prestigious Century magazine that ran a new profile of Tesla. His regular dinners with the Johnsons, particularly those at the Thanksgiving Christmas, became the closest thing he knew to home life. He would arrive in a handsome cab, which would have to wait outside for hours to take him back to his hotel, which was only a few blocks away. Yeah, America probably was. Probably completely different lifestyle, food, whatever the case may be. If he was a real person. So, like, I'm not sure yet. I have mixed feelings, but you guys get that. Whatever. It's not the point. The point is just going through it and looking for the bullshit and enjoying the story and the whatever of this man. So the Johnsons were the only people with whom he was on first-name terms with, except for the railroad heir William Willie K. Vanderbilt. Oh, he was involved with the Vanderbilts. That's a whole nother topic that I will be touching base at some point in time on. It's about the train systems, train networks, the stories behind that, the bullshit. Once again, the construction times don't line up, a bunch of bullshit. Anyway, so Vanderbilts, and we know the Vanderbilts are fucking corrupt bunch of shit. They're involved in any of those big names, really. So who would let Tesla use the Vanderbilt box at the Metropolitan Opera House? Apart from the opera, Tesla enjoyed theatrical comedies, particularly those featuring actress Elsie Ferguson, who he said knew how to dress and was the most graceful woman he had ever seen on stage. Gradually, he stopped going to the opera and the theater, going to the movies instead. It was through the Johnsons that Tesla met the writer Mark Twain, who was an admirer. Another, like, did Mark Twain even exist? Like, all these stories that he was writing, all these things, like, were they based on other stuff? Like, that's a whole nother, like, narrative that I'm not sure about. But anyway, I feel like there's something about Mark Twain. Yeah, came out and said Thomas Edison wanted him dead. Yeah. I'm sure he probably tried to assassinate him. Who knows? But anyway, so... where was yes, he met Mark Twain, who was an admirer. Tesla told Twain that his books had saved his life when he was a boy of 12. Struck down with a bout of malaria, this apparently brought tears to the author's eyes. Visiting his laboratory, Twain asked whether the inventor could come up with a high-frequency electrotherapy machine that he could sell to rich widows in Europe on his next visit. So yeah, these guys are all shady. Anyway, so Tesla said he had already had a machine that would aid their digestion. It vibrated in sympathy with the peristaltic. Am I saying that right? Peristaltic waves that move food through the gut. Enthusiastic, Twain insisted that he tried it out. It worked too well and sent the great writer dashing for the laboratory. So does that mean there's like a frequency that you can make people shit their pants? Is that what that's discussing? Because I feel like that could be a thing. Wasn't there? Like, is there like the right frequency? I used to joke around about that. I remember one time I was like hanging out with some friends. We were like, I was pretty young. I was like, imagine if you could like, because I've always been beatboxing and stuff. I was like, imagine you make a frequency that does that, and I did that. And jokingly, like I made the sound, and then a person walking by like grabbed their ass, like in the spot where you'd think poop would be coming out. And it was just like perfect timing. I know it sounds super silly. It has nothing to do with anything, but I'm a ridiculous person at times, and you gotta listen to my shit. Anyway, so I'm just kidding, guys. About malaria, he was yeah. So he made Mark Twain have to poop his pants or run to the bathroom, basically, with his little machine. Probably thought that was hilarious. So, I think it will start with the electrotherapy machine, said Twain when he returned. I wouldn't want the widows to get too healthy all in one shot. The Johnsons also introduced. So, was he like wheeling and dealing? Like, was Mark Twain like a used vacuum salesman on the side, or like why would he need to sell shit to like rich widows? Like, doesn't that sound like some shady shit? But anyway, so where was I? The Johnsons also introduced Tesla to the hero of the Spanish-American War, Richmond Pearson Hobson, who became a lifelong friend, naturalist John Muir, who invited him out to Yosemite Valley, and writer Rudyard Kipling, who had come to live in Vermont after dining. After dining with the author in 1901, Tesla wrote to Miss Johnson, "What is the matter with ink spiller Kipling? He actually dared to invite me to dine in an obscure hotel where I would be sure to get hair and cockroaches and soup." Yeah, if you guys didn't know, Tesla had like really bad OCD and he was like a germaphobe and stuff too, according to the stories. So bear with me. So with Twain and other notables in the laboratory, the first photographs under phosphorescent light were taken. However, despite his overwork, Tesla so like if he was doing all this amazing stuff, why was he excluded from the history books? That's an interesting point there, Sheena. I never thought about that way. Where was I? Photographs. Yeah, like, yeah, he's doing a lot of stuff. So, he accepted an invitation to take a holiday with the Johnsons at their home in the Hamptons, Long Island. So, we're almost there, guys. Thank you. We're very close. Yep. Yeah, we're just about there. So, fame but no fortune. With Tesla's help, Thomas Martin published the inventions, researches, and writings of Nikola Tesla in 1894. But Tesla kept giving away copies for free. Both Martin and the Johnsons were worried that Tesla made no effort to make money out of his work and suggested that he should at least tell the newspapers about taking photographs under phosphorescent light so he would get the credit. Meanwhile, see, a part of me is thinking like, if I was in his position, and everything was like false and fake, I probably wouldn't want to take a lot of credit for too much stuff. I would just like, okay, I don't think he was that humble based on the stories and the things that have happened and his responses, his actions, his words. I don't think he would have been that humble. So there's a lot of different stuff here to look at and things to think about. I think he was a piece of shit, to be honest, based on the stories that I read. I think he murdered his brother Dane, which no one talks about. I made a joke video. You'll see it. It's pretty recent. They say there's two stories: one that he fell down the stairs, or one that he fell off a horse. But he talked about times like he was in his brother's shadow. He was jealous of his brother. His brother probably received more attention. He was smarter. He had more accolades, more education, all this different stuff. He was jealous of his brother. His brother died of a head injury. First thought, I think he pushed him. Whether off the horse or down the stairs, he fucking pushed his brother Dane. Rest in peace, Dane, the better brother. No, I'm just kidding. Did you ever see that movie, Walk the Line or whatever? It was making fun of Johnny Cash, and it was like, the wrong kid died. Yeah, I use that. I use that hashtag or whatever. I thought that was kind of funny. Some people love Tesla. Some people hate him. Some people think he's fake. Some think he's the father of everything. There's a lot of differing opinions. I have mine. People have their own. Whatever. Yeah, I'm just sharing the information at this current moment in time. So they were worried about him not bothering. Yeah, he wasn't even trying to make money off of this. Martin had to lend Tesla money from his share of the book. That Tesla never ended up repaying him back. The University of Nebraska offered Tesla an honorary doctorate, but this was considered too trifling an accolade for the great inventor. Instead, so now he's got an attitude about him. So Johnson organized an honorary doctorate from Columbia. One from Yale soon followed. To boost his fame, Martin arranged for Tesla to have his voice recorded on a phonograph, an honor already bestowed on the Australian opera singer Nellie Melba and Sarah Bernhardt. He also got Tesla to sit for a sculptor and do interviews with the mainstream media. Journalists flocked around. Joseph Pulitzer, who later established the Pulitzer Prizes but was then publisher of the New York World, sent a young reporter named Arthur Brisbane to interview Tesla in one of his favorite haunts, Delmonico's restaurant, where for many years he ate every night. Brisbane noticed the famous restaurateur lowered his voice at the mention of Tesla's name. According to Brisbane, Charles Delmonico said in hushed tones, "That Tesla can do anything." We managed to make him play pool one night. Oh yeah, he was a pool shark too. He's like really good at pool. That was another thing apparently. And he was like, I'm sure he had addiction problems. He was had a problem with gambling, all these different things. But yeah, so he had never played, but he had watched us for a little while. He was very indignant when he found that we were meant to give him 15 points. But it didn't matter much, for he beat us all, even, and got all the money. There are just a few of us who played for 25 cents, so it wasn't the money we cared about. But the way he studied out pool in his head and then beat us after we had practiced for years surprised us. Yeah, they wanted because he wanted the oil. Yeah, these inventions have been around. See, but we have differing things here. Some people think he was a recluse. I think he was forced into recluse. I think they were controlling him, and they didn't want him speaking out about what had really gone on. I think he's just another puppet, Freemason puppet actor in this fucking grand stage of things. I think the World's Fairs were like museums, like old world museums. They were showing off old technology as if they were new, and that's how I feel about that particular subject. So, we're almost there, guys. So, Brisbane said he found that Tesla stoops. Most men do when they have no peacock blood in them. He lives inside of himself. He takes a profound interest in his own work. However, the engraving that accompanied the article famously showed Tesla erect and unbowed. When asked what it was like to subject himself to such huge voltages, Tesla said, "I admit that I was somewhat alarmed when I began these experiments, but after I understood the principles, I could proceed in an unalarmed manner." Later, he explained the spectacle presented when he was connected to an AC voltage of 2.5 million volts. It was, Tesla said, a sight marvelous and unforgettable. Sorry. One sees the experimenter standing on a big sheet of fierce, blinding flame, his whole body enveloped in a mass of phosphorescent, wriggling streamers like the tentacles of an octopus. That would have been cool to see. Bundles of light stick out from his spine as he stretches out the arms, thus forcing the electric fluid onwardly. Roaring tongues of fire leap from his fingertips. Objects in his vicinity bristle with rays, emit musical notes, glow, grow hot. He is the center of still more curious actions which are invisible. At each throb of the electric force, myriads of minute projectiles are shot off of him with such velocity as to pass through the adjoining walls. He is in turn being violently bombarded by the surrounding air and dust. He experiences sensations which are indescribable. A vow of chastity. See, guys, you guys might not like this, but like it's just to add to the drama. I'm not making fun of it. I'm not putting it down. Everyone is open to do their own things, but there's been a few different clues here and there that just things that people have said. And the moment I read vow of chastity, okay, so I don't think he was attracted to women. I think he's homosexual. And there's been a few different evidences that showed that. So it's like we're looking at the story of this life and this man and this person, and I'm not putting it down. It's just, adds to the spice of the story and who he was. Like, this degenerate gambler, addict, this, that, and the next thing, all this fakery and stuff. It's pretty neat. Yeah, like just there was people talking about he was ignoring the advances of women and this and to see someone a man like vow of chastity and I don't know. I just like I said I don't have an issue with that. I just think it's like a part of the story. I'm looking at history and particularly this man from a different point of view. So we're just looking at the information and like garnering a different idea about it. So I think that's kind of neat. So don't take it the wrong way. And if you do, there's not much I can really do about that. Obviously, you can see my intentions in the way that I speak about things that I'm obviously not meaning it in a bad way. But so, I still think he was a murderer. But anyway, so, where was I? Vow of chastity. So Tesla also became a close friend of society architect Stanford White, designer of the Madison Square Garden. I've started to. I'm actually wanting to do a tour of Niagara Falls where he was involved with. Yeah, but you were you listening to the story about how his brother died? Clearly, he was. I'm pretty sure he pushed his brother or was involved in his death. Because the same night they found him, I think he like ran away from home or something as well. There's just a lot of clues and things that lead to, and his attitude towards his brother and things they were saying that he was, people kind of knew about him and how he felt. Go more west, yeah. I think I'm gonna go. Maybe he stole the sandwich. No, his brother was smarter and better than him, and he got more attention. So he was jealous, and he probably took an opportunity, did something stupid, and it. He probably didn't mean to kill him, but shit happens, right? And yes, and if he did, he has to live with that. But it's just a spicy story, like whatever, and it's based off the information off this book and other accounts and information that's out there in the world about this gentleman. So he was friends with the guy who designed Madison Square Garden, the Washington Memorial Arch, and the New York Herald Building. They met in 1891 when piano. They met. Okay, so they met in 1891 when piano virtuoso Ignacy. There's a lot of names I have a hard time pronouncing, guys. Just I'm sorry for that, but there's a lot of different names going on there. Northwest Territories. Yeah, I've been up to the Yukon, but I've never been in the Northwest Territories. I would like to check that out. But I'm starting a little late in the game as far as traveling and whatnot. I don't think I'm gonna do the entire country before it gets like snowy. So I figure I'm gonna head towards the East Coast. I'm gonna go through Quebec and the other like eastern provinces and stuff, and then I'll probably like stop in Nova Scotia for the winter and kind of settle down there. Take all my footage that I get over the next however many months. Same thing I did last winter. Take all my footage, go through it, see what I've learned, add to my theories, whatever the case may be, and that's kind of where I'm headed. But I'll do the West Coast next year, like next spring, and I'll be a little bit better prepared for it. But yeah, so we have this virtuoso special piano guy. So Square Gardens for 5 nights. White even put Tesla up in his club. The players which became. I'm getting really tired, guys. Okay, sorry. I'm having a hard time reading. The players I read for like 4 hours today. So out loud. The players which became one of the inventor's favorite haunts, but it was a strange friendship. While Tesla was thought to be chaste. White, though married, invited him to one of his parties where naked girls emerged from pies. Was it like a swinger party? Was he kinky? White was later shot dead by Harry Thaw, the jealous husband of White's mistress showgirl, Evelyn Nesbit. It seems from their correspondence that Katherine Johnson took some amorous interest in Tesla. He was also seen dining out with women. However, he had become interested in Buddhism and seems to have sworn a vow of chastity after meeting a certain Swami Vivekananda. Kananda, that's a weird name, at a dinner with Sarah Bernhardt. Swami was in America for the Congress of World Religions held at the Chicago World's Fair and preached chastity as the path to enlightenment. It's not wrong. Not that, anyways, sorry. Both Bernhard and Vivekananda visited Tesla's laboratory in New York. Tesla also studied theosophical theories of spiritualist Madame Blavatsky. Wasn't that like some psychic lady or something? Now widely seen as a charlatan. Woo! Good job, guys. Thank you for sitting through. We can look at Tesla's famous friends tomorrow. I don't care. I'm tired. We're going to have a little discussion here if you guys are up for it. This is, we'll be carrying on with Niagara Falls. Let me find my little, oh my fuck, I just fucking flew my ash. Fucking ashtrays going flying here, guys. Just bear with me. Alright, get my little card in there. So we're going to look at the cover while we have a little discussion here. So, who wants to join the live? I'm just going to start getting all you guys, I'm just going to start clicking on your names and see what you, yeah, I can invite a couple of yous. You don't have to show your face. You can block it out if you want. So, if you're shy, don't care. There's the book name right there, guys. Oh, that's a lot of reading. That was fun, though. I enjoyed it. And, it's fun looking at a different version of history and particularly this guy. So, You're shy? Come on now. Don't do what? So, sounds like a lot of excuses. That's okay. Okay, well, anyways, we'll just discuss it the way that it is. That's fine. Um, questions, comments, fucking give me something here, guys. I love the engagement, so that's what I look for in this. I don't want to just like talk to a silent audience. If you guys aren't going to come and talk to me directly, like with your voices, can we at least talk in the comments? I read Encyclopedia Child and Marx. Books are great. Yeah, it's fun, different, get a different perspective for sure. And yeah, I think this could be a thing down the road. And I feel the same way when I read historical documents as well. You know what? I've just been doing this the past couple days. I may just do warnings. Most of the people that I talk with and that I have on my page are usually. I've noticed the prime time is between 3 and 5, and then like 8 to 11. So I've kind of been doing two, and I started recording these. So I've recorded all of them so far. This is the third one I've done, and I'm just trying to read all of the book out loud so that I can, because I'm not gonna, the less shit I like, I'm a lightweight packer, like I'm not gonna carry much. I don't use a tent. I have a Gore-Tex bivy that I got from a surplus that I years ago, and it's in fucking immaculate shape. I'll be outside traveling. I'm going East Coast. I'm going to go through, because Ontario, there's a lot of stuff. There's still stuff I got to go through. Some places I got to visit. Montreal, Quebec City are huge. I don't know if I'm going to focus, because I'll be hitchhiking and stuff. I don't know if I'm going to focus on all the little tiny cities. It'll kind of be just like whatever's along the way. I'm going to try to hit up all the capital cities. I've never been to Prince Edward Island, excuse me, or Newfoundland, so I'd like to do that. Um, 8 to 11 works pretty well for most people. Yeah, actually, you know what? This particular time that I did this one was actually the most engagement that I've gotten. Last night I started like super late. I'm just, yeah, so um, well, what I'm doing is I do the easiest way for me to do this shit is to just like talk freely on here, and then I can record it, which I have been, or I have the replays, and then I can put the replays on YouTube. So if people want to do the visual, and then I'll do the same. It'll all be the same, similar like content, like the longer speaking stuff. I could do podcasts, so I'll make it digestible in any form because. You can turn I can turn on my Spotify or podcast and I can close my phone and listen to it, but I can't do that with YouTube. So if people want to see the pictures and whatever's going on, they can look at the YouTube. And if I used to have an aunt that lived in Lethbridge, I went there years ago as a kid. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And the thing is, I traveled around Canada many times before. I've hitchhiked, hop freight trains, done all this crazy shit, worked as I went. I got lots of travel stories, lots of crazy shit that happened in the past. But I was not looking at these buildings. I could fucking care less about architecture, and now I can't stop fucking thinking about it. But yeah, I don't have enough. There's not enough like warm weather. Like I traveled until like February of this year, and then it just got too cold. I couldn't fly my drone anymore. I was getting warnings. It was gonna damage all my shit, and like my hands were. It was hard to film and do anything outside. So I was like, fuck. And just a bunch of series events led me to the town that I was staying in, or that I ended up staying in, and I took on a little job here. I've been working on content, developing my ideas, just getting better, like learning how to edit and just organize my thoughts. And this is a really great way to do that. And I've had this book for a little while now. I just kind of forgot about it, and it's fun to go through and read for sure. But yeah, maybe I don't really do lives very much. I wasn't getting a lot of engagement before, and just people were like kind of flaky. I'd make plans because like I don't like just talking in open air, just talking to a screen. I need something to talk about. So if people aren't going to be on, it's harder for me to just kind of get going and talk about a certain subject unless people are engaging in the comments, asking questions, or I'm reading something and I'm like, oh, like you can see as I'm reading this, and you can see how I get a little idea from something, or I interpretation from something that I've read, or whatever the case may be. So oh no, Tesla's not the only topic. It's just like one of the only books that I have right now. I got a couple other books on like history and civilization, things like that. But I talk about a lot of different things. I talk about alternative energy, hydroelectricity, architecture, building techniques, all these different things, Tartarian mud flood, all these different things, keywords, whatever you want to call it. Different conspiracies. Like, I mean, I think about a lot of different conspiracies, but this is the one thing that interests me the most right now that has my attention. Like, suppressed technology, how history's been fucked around with, all these different things. What do I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I can't understand your reading. I'm getting tired too. So it said, how do I think about magnet generator? I'm not sure what you're saying, darling. Can you reword that or rephrase that, please? Because I don't know what you're trying to say. Yeah, I don't think there's any, the expression, there's nothing new under the sun. So, I mean, if you look at my page, it's a lot of satire and jokes and making fun of different stuff and just trying to bring attention to different things. Or, I'm really obsessed with the architecture, like I said, and there's all the underground stuff. Like I said, we're somewhere in between, like, Indiana Jones and, honestly, I can't remember the name of that one movie, but it has Nicolas Cage in it, where there's all these like monuments and other things that have like there's some secret to it, and there's like stuff hidden in what's that? What's the monument where the presidents are at? I'm sorry, guys, it's getting late. I can't remember the names of everything. Do you remember um, the monuments with the heads of the presidents? What's the name of that again? Please, somebody. I know a lot of Americans watch my show, my channel, so I'm sure you guys know what I'm referring to. Anyways, if I can remember, I made a video about this like a few days ago, just about how movies tell us the truth and show us things in plain sight, and the reality that I'm experiencing. Yeah, Mount Rushmore. But yeah, there was a movie that Nicolas Cage did, and for some reason, then I keep gapping out on the name. I'm Canadian, but honestly, when I look at all those like statistics and stuff for my audience and the people that my TikToks reach, it's mostly Americans and a couple other places. Like, it's not as many Canadians as you think, and considering I'm Canadian myself, so. But yeah, guys, if you are interested, go back and look at the other chapters that I've read. You can. I mean, there's some pictures, but not today. We actually saw more than some of the other chapters. So even just listening, it's kind of funny, some of it, and it's cool. It's cool to get the engagement as well. And like, so I figured I've been having a hard time organizing my thoughts and stuff. So I figure short stuff is going to be on TikTok, and then like longer videos, lives, that sort of thing. I'll do on YouTube. I'm just trying to organize all my shit there. Rushmore had natives to the right. They chose, well, yeah, I'm sure, like, they called it the six grandfathers or fathers or something like that. And yeah, it was probably something else that they were trying to hide or cover up. They've got like some sort of tunnel system or an elevator that goes down to a vault. Like, there's probably some sort of system of caverns or a building. But you know how people talk about the tunnels and stuff, but then I think that ties into the buildings as well, and potentially these tunnels are actually hallways because all of it is interconnected one way or another. And yeah, look, I got a lot of questions, and like I said, different ideas and different things I find push me towards different ideas. So some weeks I feel like one thing, and then others, and I have these trends where I'll think about a certain topic, and you'll see me post a lot of videos about it, whether it's about like I said, construction techniques, like structure, like what brick is, how it's made, its function, how like different things. The Freemason, I talk about the Freemasons a lot, and like not what they're doing within the society, but more or less how they've changed history, some of the things they've done. Wording is a big thing. It's like this game. It's like this wordplay game where words mean more than one thing and not in the normal way. Like, it's like these hidden doublespeak meanings of things. Like, how I was talking about, like, found, when they founded a town, it literally means they found it, like they found it as it was, kind of thing. Yeah, the like Black's Law, like it can be quite confusing, definitely, and you got to be careful. And it's the same with like when you're talking to police, how you when you go in a verbal contract with them and whatever the case may be. And I'm sure you guys have heard about like the straw man stuff and maritime law and all the shit surrounding that as well. So that's another um, interesting subject. But like I said, it's fascinating and shitty, but it's not my main shtick or whatever. Like I just do the stuff that interests me, and there's a lot of other creators that talk about this stuff, so it's good to broaden your horizons and receive information from a lot of different sources or whatever. So is everyone here Canadian or are most of you guys American? Curious. And as far as like, are you guys able to understand me when I'm speaking? Like, am I speaking clearly enough? Am I speaking slowly? Whatever. I'm just trying to get an idea. I've never read on live up until last couple nights or whatever. So yeah, a lot of people American for sure. Um, Perfect pace. Cool, cool. Right on, right on. Yeah, and I mean, maybe I'll find more books down the road and make it a regular thing. Ideally, it's good to get the conversation going because as I'm talking, it's bringing up all the other things that I think about, and it gives me a chance to explain it and show it as well. So, like I said, I have this huge kind of theory and idea in my head, but I have to break it down into parts, and TikTok is the perfect way for me to explain it. It's like I said, sometimes I can't just fire on a live and just go and start talking about something. I need, like, there's just like this moment, a spark of inspiration or whatever the case may be. You have Native American, Indian, and Irish bloodlines. Interesting. There's definitely lots of questions. Like just the way it starts for people, you realize, okay, we've been lied to. To what degree? Well, the more you look, the more you find out. But things are definitely not as they seem. Some people are finding some of this stuff out just for the first time ever, and some people have known about this stuff for a long time. So, but there's always new information coming out, and I'm really into this subject, and like I said, it ties in a lot of different things for me personally. I don't know if it does the same for you guys, but it definitely makes a lot of other things make sense, like little tidbits of secret information that we've heard over the years, like occult knowledge and information about technology, spirituality, this, that, and the next thing. So it's really very fascinating indeed. And like I said, I just share what I learn as I go and the topics and theories that I have, and just kind of reinforce those ideas. And every time I go out and I travel though, or like I go visit a place in person, I always am learning something new, and I know that more pieces of the puzzle are to be found, and I know there's something important about monuments, and I know they play a role, so that's something that I'm gonna look into more. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, you can send something off, but like I said before, they have to use some truths, or else it wouldn't resonate at all. So it's a game, two truths and a lie. He wrote a series called, which were the entire historic events of history leading to those. What are you guys talking? I don't understand what you guys are talking about. I see two different things. Those are all flight paths, and he wrote a series. What do you guys? Did I miss something in the comments? I'm confused. What are you guys referring to? Just the comments seem out of context, so I'm just confused as to what you're saying. Maybe it's just getting late. I don't know. I did a lot of reading today, but smoking is a good book to own if you can find it. Yeah, like honestly, I'm trying to get rid of shit and not get more, but what I probably will do, like I'm gonna do a lot of lives when I'm on the road and stuff. So I'm just trying to get rid of these books and go through them, the ones that I have right now, and then maybe when I stop in whatever next city I decide to settle in for a little bit, I'll pick up the books again. But I'm not gonna just suddenly stop making content and stop doing lives. If it carries on that I'm getting enough engagement, maybe I'll do lives more often. But like I was doing them for a few months back, way back when, and just like it wasn't happening the way that I was hoping that it would, and just didn't seem like there was enough people on this train yet. So, but I feel like more and more people are getting interested in this subject, and more people want to hear about it, and there's more of an audience now for it. Like I started this page in like November, yeah, maybe end of October and stuff. So it's interesting to see over time. I'm not sure about that part. I mean, numbers are everything, right? Math makes up the world around us, so I think there's some importance to it. But I'm not entirely sure. Some people I've seen some different things people talking about, like the sound, the frequency, and what the numbers represent, and a few different things. But I'm not entirely sure about that. I know some other people out there have some interpretations of what that means and whatnot, but I'm not entirely sure about that one yet. It's not something that like really speaks to me. You know what I mean? Maybe it's because I just don't understand it, to be honest. But when I see, I'm not a numbers dude. I never have. Like I struggle not with math, but just like the numbers in my head. I don't like it. I'm more like a visual like imagery thing. I'm doing the numbers, thinking about numbers. They don't attract me. They don't interest me. I don't have a feeling towards them. I'm not into geometry or whatever it's called, that sort of thing. More some people are attracted to that. I stay away from numbers, so I'm not. It's not my thing. So I can't really comment too much on that. I'm not going to pretend to know or whatever. If you guys have some input on that, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Which building are you most fascinated with in Canada, America, globally? Interesting. In Canada, I am most fascinated with the armories. Obviously, the cathedrals are really cool, and I found a few that were really, really neat. But the armories like seem like these like tiny castles to me, and I think they're really neat. Um, there's one I found in one city, and it looked like a cathedral. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's getting late. I don't know if I'm not making sense. Just let me know. But just the way I perceive numbers, or versus like what like I'm like an artistic mode, and then there's like linear logic math mode. My brain is more leaning towards one side than the other. Like I could do math, but I don't like it. I don't like having numbers in my head. If that makes any sense. I'm just weird, I guess. I don't know how to explain that. Really, I can't really articulate myself very well right now. I apologize. Try to answer your questions, but yeah, the someone mentioned about the 369. Like, what do you guys think about that? What do you know about it? What's your perception? What have you been told? What's your experience with that? I'm curious. I like music, art, singing, talking, sharing information. I like making music a lot for sure. Um, I like thinking about this stuff. The architecture is definitely interesting more now than ever. I mean, I'll find a piece that seems really interesting to me, but then something comes up more and more. Like I'm really focused on the details. There's definitely a lot of buildings that I find really neat. One that I found out recently was the what was it, Sangranata Familia or something? I can't remember the name, but it's like this really like dark looking weird castle cathedral that they've been building for like the last hundred some odd years. The history is really silly, like they lost the original plans or the diorama or whatever they were building using the building plans off of, and like you've had all these different builders come in and no one can really finish, but then it has like this dark like melted architecture kind of look to the front of it, like it's like Castle Grayskull, or like it's just like really weird and dark and eerie. I think it's like Casanata Familia or Sangranata. I can't remember the name. Like I said, guys, it's getting late. I'm trying to remember all this different shit, but it's really weird, eerie, looking buildings. There's a lot. Like for me, I'm just noticing all the different features individually as a whole. There's a lot of similarities, but there is differences about the buildings as well. The Capitol buildings, especially in America, are really neat to me. But then again, you see those similar buildings everywhere in the world. I notice the pillars or the columns. I notice like I said, I think they do a lot of false foundations too, like a false stone that they like almost like a curtain wall of stone, and then they use it was a lot of these buildings were structural brick, I believe, as well. So numbers, access, yeah. Well, that's what makes me think about like simulation theory. If everything's numbers and math, then we're just code basically at this point, right? Oh, you actually accept someone accepted? Did that just happen? Are you gonna talk? Maybe you don't have to if you don't want to. I just noticed that just now. What you gonna do?
Can you hear me?
Hello. Oh, you lost things. Yeah, I
Can you
can hear
hear
you.
me? Okay, just wanted to make
I
sure.
can. Yeah, yeah.
You were talking about you like different things, and I was like, okay, so what do you like in your head? You said not mathematics, but you said like pictures and monuments and different, ley lines of buildings that have to do with longitude, latitude, altitude, vibrational, pull of your chakra, based upon, upper, lower, underground cities, tunnels, things like that. So I didn't know if
It's a
you were
lot
a
of things to
traveler or what things
discuss.
you've seen. What things do you
What
like?
makes that? What makes me think what?
What things do you like?
Well, right now, this is what interests me the most. Right now, this is the things that I like the most, and I really enjoy making content because I get to kind of piece a little bit of everything that I enjoy. I like making music. I like animations. I like doing all these different things. I like putting it all together. I like humor, making all these jokes. I like looking into the history. I enjoy construction. I enjoy building things myself. It's like a combination of all these things that I enjoy and interest me that I get to put all together to create content and then share the ideas or things that I'm learning. And I've been a traveler in the past, and now I'm doing it again. And it's like doing it from a different point of view and perspective. Like, so I can travel through Canada, I can see what's there and look at these different types of buildings. And like I said, going out there and seeing stuff in person is very different than looking at it from the computer or looking at pictures or videos. So it's quite neat.
Correct. Where have you traveled inside of the United States?
Mostly the just the East Coast. I think the furthest I've gone is like I ended up in one time I hopped a freight train out of Winnipeg. I ended up in Minnesota, and then the train finally stopped in Wisconsin. That was an interesting journey. But no, I
Right.
at one point in time yeah, one point in time I wanted to go down to Mexico, so I snuck through the U.S. Canadian border, hiked for a week by myself in like Vermont, and then hitchhiked my way down and made my way down to the U.S. Mexican border, then walked across there, and then hitchhiked through Mexico. And I spent like 2 months. I took $500 and did that, and went down to Mexico for like 2 months. And I had been living in Quebec for a little while at the time, so I could speak French fairly well, and then picked up
Right.
Spanish as well. But like it's like if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So I haven't really been
Well, as
like
long as you know
wish
a
God
little
all,
bit of
all I say
French,
it's well, man.
a little bit of Spanish,
What's
and a
that?
little bit of Italian. French, Italian, and Spanish all are literally the same language, different little accents on different things. So you can pretty
Yes, right.
much,
They
make
derived
your
from
way
Latin,
through.
right?
Exactly. I didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
which part you went
I'd love
through.
to learn
I'm
more
like an
languages.
hour from
Yeah,
Mexico
I'd love to
border
learn
now.
more. Yeah, it was cool. It was weird. It had those like turnstiles, like you're going on a carnival ride, and you just walk through, and there's just like people standing there. No one says anything. Nobody really cares. It's
Exactly. I
definitely,
did the same thing.
yeah, it was
I
a lot of
walked
fun.
across
And
and then they like brought me back. They were like, if you get caught over here, they're going to keep you for 6 months. So you might want to go back. And I was like, okay. So they like drove me back
right.
across the border. I was like, sweet. This is great.
Yeah, yeah, it was really funny. The one time I ended up going across the border on the train when I was crossing back, the person I was hitchhiking and the person dropped me off at the border. So there's like a lineup of cars, and just imagine you're like in your car and there's a dude with a backpack like giving his passport at the window. They're like, "Okay, so why are you on foot? And what are you doing?" And I told them, I was like, "Oh, I hopped a freight train, ended up here." I mean, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of
Oops.
funny little things that happen, but everything is connected by trails. You'd be surprised. You can hike the entire east coast of the United States by. There's a trail that goes from Maine all the way down to Georgia. It's the Appalachian Trail, which also connects with
Yep.
the Long Trail, and the Long Trail goes from Vermont to Massachusetts, and it takes like a couple months to hike, whatever. But anyways, interesting journeys indeed. But yeah, I mean, I stopped obviously for a while from traveling. Did a life. I did construction, did some other stuff, learned some other hobbies and other things that I enjoy, and now I'm just kind of back at it again, but for different reasons. Before I was just kind of exploring the world around me, people, jobs, locations. I could have cared less about buildings, but knowing what I know now, it really changed my perspective on myself and the world around me, and a lot of the things that I've been looking at over time and over the years. Right?
Definitely. So I was just interested in coming on and like seeing your different perspective on things. So I kind of have always been a traveler. Like I got in trouble as a young child for doing it because yeah, when you're 12 and stuff and you're supposed to be at school, you're not supposed to be jumping on trains and ending up in other states, you know?
That's right.
So
That's
they
right.
kind of
Were you a
frown on
gypsy
that.
in another life? Right.
Yes,
Were you a gypsy in another
correct.
life? Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I tell
Yeah.
people.
Right
People
on.
are like, "What are you?" I'm like a gypsy cowgirl. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I have that whole country because I was, out in the Indian boarding schools and everything in the Midwest. But that whole gypsy spirit, my mother used to always joke and say, I'll sell you to the gypsies. And I was like, that's kind of the curse of the gypsies. Once, they give you one of their own, you can't sell us
Right.
back to them. They, frown on that. So, but yeah, so people have always been like, what are you like, some kind of gypsy? I'm like, yes, totally.
Right.
Um,
Sometimes less is
you talk
more, though. It's
about,
easy like that. It's a fun lifestyle.
oh, it's great. Plus, I mean, you get to learn so much information and, see how people are so the same, but so different. So I didn't know if you had went through the whole West side yet or the central part of America. You said Wisconsin and different parts like that. I've been through there. Um,
I'd
the
love
East
to.
Coast.
There's a lot I really to check out. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was waiting.
Oh, I was just saying that part of the States is the one part that I didn't get to check out, and I know there's a lot of really interesting things in history and architecture and all kinds of stuff to check out. Maybe at some point in time, I don't know if they'll let me into the States because as many times as I crossed illegally, I also got caught a few times, so I got banned. First time they gave me a
Oh,
voluntary release, and then the second time I got banned. I actually had to go to county in Sheldon, Vermont. That was interesting.
wow.
Yeah, it was weird. It was the weirdest thing because guys, listen to this. When in the county jail, when they brought the food for meals, did you know that they didn't have individual plates? They literally put a platter of food in front of all the inmates, and people just grabbed whatever they could to eat. Imagine living that way on a daily basis. Like that's
Are
some
you
wild
kidding me?
shit.
Whoa.
Anyways, what? No, not at all. And they tried to tell me
Oh,
they're like,
wow.
oh, they tried to give me a tuberculosis shot. They're like, if you don't take this, you don't leave. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You can't force any. Like, I'm not even an American citizen. I'm just here being held for ICE to come and drop me off back at the border. Anyway, so yeah, I got banned for like 5 years. That was a long time ago. But besides the point, I feel like they would give me a hard time. So if I do go, I probably have to find my own way in again. But that's there's other people in the
Yeah.
states exploring right now. I'm gonna stick to Canada for now and go from there, and we'll see what happens. And there's not. I know there's people
I don't know.
exploring, but
It's
for
Canada
other
yet.
reasons, why not? Pardon?
I worked with computers formerly, and so I worked with a lot of people that came from Canada to the United States under contract to work. What we were working together with, and they were really great and fun. They're like, "You need to come to Canada," and I was like, "I don't know. Like, I think if I come there, like they would probably like." Ban me from ever going back to the United States. They'd be like, "Nope, you got her. You got to
Now
keep
you're
her.
gone. Now
Like,
you can't come back. Yeah,
you can't bring her back.
that's
Like
funny.
she's already cost us X amount of money, so there'll be no letting that one back in." But I've always wanted to end up going through Canada. Like I've taken boats, went around to like, Alaska and all that through the ferry, but I've never
Really
went through Canada. I was always
cool.
scared because they were like the mounted police. And I'm like, great, I'm going to get chased down by a horse.
No, Canada is pretty chill, man. I don't know. It's a neat country. There's a lot of really beautiful features. You got the mountains, you got the ocean, beautiful lakes, all these different people are pretty cool. The cities are pretty chill. So I mean,
Yeah.
Canada gets its reputation for a reason, but obviously with any place you go, you're gonna have problems, and we kind of have a douchebag looking after the country right now, unfortunately. But
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think the Canadians really want Americans to come up there anyways because they watch what we're doing to our own country and they're like, maybe not. Let them go down there and do
I
it
don't
their
have a
own.
bad
I don't know
attitude
how
towards
your guys'
Americans.
gun laws is my whole thing. I'm like, I got over here to Arizona, and so they have recreational marijuana after 21 years old now. and
Oh, really?
guns.
We're allowed
So
to
literally,
grow.
like
We're allowed to grow four
everyone
plants.
just lays back and they're relaxed, and they don't bother anybody. They go to work, they do their thing, and
Mhm.
everyone makes it seem like it's so wild and crazy here. I'm like, no. Like you go to Texas, it's like way different than here. So even New Mexico is like, you know, completely relaxed, and they've got the whole, different
Isn't it
laws and
open
everything.
carry?
Oh yeah. Like everybody here walks around like the wild, wild west with revolvers on their hips.
So when you
Literally,
get
it's
your
like
driver's license, do you get your gun license too? Like when you turn 16, do you go for your gun test and your driving test? Is that what happens down there?
basically over 21, you can do what you want. That's
Yeah, no, I get that.
literally
I
what
was,
it
I was
is.
just
So
making a joke.
there's no
Anyways.
free, like I had my concealed carry and everything on hunting, and I've been shooting since I was 4. But it was like when I came here, they're like, you don't have to have that. I'm like, so would I spend all that money and time and training doing, if I just come here and you can do what you want? I'm like, this place is great. But it
Right?
really cuts down on a lot because other cities, like people go around and they do little things to kind of pick at other people, like to instigate a fight or displeased with someone in the neighborhood. Around here, they don't do that. Like you don't cut people off in traffic because literally, like, they'll just pull out their gun and lay it on the dash, like, do you really want to have this
Oh yeah.
argument? And people are just
Well,
like, yeah, you want to cut me off? No problem. Like, you want my parking spot? Sweet. No problem. I'll
yeah, there'd
park way
probably be
out
a lot
there.
less like people talking shit and stuff, right?
Exactly. I mean, people here, it's like California is the next state over, and everybody knows how those crime areas are. And it's like they don't have guns over there. So if they're over here and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm from California, you're like, yeah, okay. And then you've got the whole East Coast thing. We got a lot of people here from Jersey and New York. And it's like, people are like, what? And I was like, everyone pretty much out here is a transplant. There's very few people that are actually like born and raised here. Everyone's come from the
Right.
city for you can be outside 86% of the year. They have BML land, which is basically free camping disbursement land. So there's so many people that literally live like a whole nomadic snowbird lifestyle. So it's just way different than whenever you go to the Midwest where like everybody lives in little cookie cutter houses and, they go to the lake, but they don't ever leave their square foot. Like here is, people, they do what they want to
What
do.
state did you say
And
you're in
so
again? What state did you
Arizona,
say you're in again? Arizona.
Arizona.
What is your
Yeah.
capital? Did you ever go to your capital and like look at the buildings around there? It's pretty neat.
No, I have not. I just moved here 11 months ago, but all the places that I lived before I had, and I raised my children for 20 years in Oklahoma, and I actually lived in their
Cool.
original state capital before it was moved to a different city, through a valley. I mean, it's actually got a lot of
They
history, and
they
it was
moved they moved the
Indian
capital.
territory. Oh yeah, there was a feud over the capital, and yes, it was lost in a poker thing, and they ended up stealing the seal and taking it to the next city over.
That sounds really silly. Like that doesn't sound like a real story. That sounds
It
like a
is
movie
so
script.
true.
Like I don't know. It
Yeah,
just sounds
like
silly. Oh, we lost it in a poker tournament, so now we gotta move it somewhere else. Like, come
yeah,
on.
the original
I'm
capital
not.
was
I'm not. I'm
totally
not
like a
questioning you. I'm questioning
bootleg
the story.
brothel town. Yeah, it's like a bootleg brothel town. So you're talking Oklahoma City is on one side, and if you go north, you go into Guthrie, which is on the other side of the valley. And then it drops down, when you go through Pawnee and Stillwater area, and then comes back up. So literally there's like where the cattle run was across the top of the state, and then you have where a waterway has been dried up because they, pumped oil and everything out of the area. And then you've got the center part where the capital and the original capital were, which is where a giant water aquifer is. So I mean, it's pretty
Hmm.
interesting history
Interesting.
there.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because
For.
originally,
I
like I
mean,
said, they had
really,
all the
it's
natives in
it's
different
it's.
sections. They have old prisoner of war camps there. I mean,
Cool.
it's pretty interesting.
Now I got a question for you. So how
Yes.
much of this the reading were you around for? Did you catch me from the beginning, midway,
I didn't
towards the
get you
end?
in the beginning. I got you towards the middle, and where you're just kind of pointing out things. I know that in the
Okay,
encyclopedias that
that's
I
fine.
read, they were probably about 3 years apart, late 1700s and early 1700s sets,
Okay,
and different families would literally list the same invention, but like you said, it was based upon patents. So basically, if we wanted to ever actually write a tangible history book, we would literally have to get the patents
right,
on the different products that were made here in the United States and then compare that with the census, from different areas,
right.
and, railroad tracks going through, imports, exports, that sort of thing. And it's like, other than that, all the rest of it is just so crazy that it doesn't even make sense. Like you were talking about Columbus and learning, how he can end up coming to explore. And it's like, you know,
Yeah, how he
which,
basically won, it's like he won the trip, you know what I mean? Like it just that
yeah, I
sounds so
was like, I
silly,
thought he
some of
was
it.
trying to find a quicker trade route to the Indies for spices. It's, and that
Well,
they
someone
sent a
was
bunch
supposed
of
to, but
vessels with
apparently they
him
wanted the
to where
best. Yeah,
they were saying how he was going to fall off of a flat earth. So they literally sent him with debtors, prisoners, and different things like that, and sent him on this wild quest. They're like, if you make it back, great. If not, we've emptied out the
right.
things that we don't need. And I'm just like, well, that's a pretty interesting way of looking at it. But then you go back and you have Leif Erikson from the Vikings, and, different, you know, places where they've researched and scientifically proven this is here and this is here. And
Feels like
it's
there's a
just
lot of
crazy.
contradictions though.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is that the two oldest mummies or bodies that they found, that were, one is in Africa and one is actually out here in Arizona on the Navajo tribe land. And it's like, wow, that's interesting that. And then you talk about people in the Guinness World books, and like the smallest and the tallest people will be from the same village. So it's like that much
Yeah,
different in their genetic coding. So it, it's getting pretty interesting, just because technology and information is now available worldwide, as opposed to what families know. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can write whatever you want in your history books, but a family knows what happened to their family members, and it's like, well, that wasn't put in there right, you know.
right.
So it's
Yeah,
pretty
but some of
interesting.
the older stuff, it's hard to confirm as well, right? You know, we only
Well, yeah,
know so
carbon
much and what
dating
we're
and everything
told.
like that can only be theorized, and then, like you said, everything's got a 5% margin of error. So even if you do the same experiment X amount of times, 95% of the time it'll be correct. But then there's going to be a variable that just happens completely out of control and no rhythm, you know. So, like you
Right.
said, with studying numbers, is you have to study numerology, how languages, when you say one thing, it can mean so many different things. Is the root word
Yeah,
Latin,
Black's
or,
Law, and then that gets into all that
right.
shit.
Is it, in Hebrew? Was it in this language? Why was it translated to this language? What's the actual meaning behind the word? Because nouns and adjectives and all that are, different linguistical orders and meaning and significance. So,
Exactly.
but I didn't
So
know
I
if you
saw some of
traveled
them.
anywhere to any other countries, like in
Not
Europe or
not
anything
yet.
like that.
Not yet. I would love to, but when the time is right, that opportunity will arise. I'm not gonna rush it or force it. So we'll see. We'll get there. If it's meant to
Yeah, I was
be,
gonna
it's meant
say.
to be. It's something I'd like to do, but I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. I got a lot to do here just in Canada alone, and exploration to do, and I got the rest of my life ahead of me too. I don't expect to figure
Yeah, you're young.
figure out the things that I want to figure out right away. You know what I mean? It's an adventure. It's my adventure. It's my simulation, my life experience, my little universe in my brain, and the experiences that I'm meant to have and that I'm gonna have. And so it is what it is. It's my little movie. we'll see what happens. It's been interesting so far, but I did notice in the comments someone mentioned about libraries being burnt down. I've been thinking about the Library of Alexandria a lot lately, and the idea of burning information down. I get it, but at the same time, it seems kind of silly. Like for me, it would make more sense for them to loot the library, take what they need, pretend that they have nothing, burn it, and be like, "Oh, oops, we lost everything. Sorry, guys." Meanwhile, it's all like hanging out in the Vatican library vaults, whatever. You know what I mean? It would just seem silly, and
Exactly.
the idea that they lost all this technology, building techniques, this, that, and the next thing. Maybe they just never could actually execute it, or they didn't know how to do it, or they just wanted to suppress it. And the best way to control is to suppress, right? You change your history, you change everything around that, and a lot of other things. You control people.
Exactly. Mob mentality. Everybody wants to end up following the carrot in the direction that they want to follow it in. So
I
we
was
need
just
to.
about to say they tell you to look at one hand, then while they're doing something with the left or the other, right? So
Exactly. But yeah, my family, they had a bookstore, and a lot of the books that were burned and banned and everything like that, they were able to bring through under, friendships and bonds and everything with people through, we did religious gifts and different things like that, built furniture, sold family recipes, had
right.
organic gardens, that sort of thing. So having that information, like you said, is it gets burnt here, but then, there's a backup version of it over here, because even though you write it your way, you still want to make sure that you are the only person that obtains or controls this knowledge of before. So it's pretty interesting.
Unfortunately, it's like an abuser or whatever. The more they try to hide and cover up, the more obvious it becomes, right? They're like trying to, change history, do all these things, but the truth always comes to the surface one way or another. People notice things. People are gonna, be like, "Hey, that's not cool," or "That doesn't make sense. That's not right." People start questioning. The more people start questioning, the more people are investigating. The more people investigating, the more truth that's going to come out, and eventually, we're going to have a better idea of what our true nature is, what this earth is really about, why we're here, what we're doing, what we're missing out on, all that
Yeah, how
all
to
that
add
pertinent
to it, how to
information,
make
right?
it better. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm hoping, is that people can end up using the science to actually make the world a better place. Because if we benefit the world more, then it's going to benefit us more. I mean, we're the only species on the planet that are currently paying to live here,
Exactly.
paying taxes
Exactly. It doesn't make
and,
sense.
for food and all this stuff. And I'm like, excuse me, who started this system? Like, which caveman jumped out of the cave and said, "Hey, I found this, and now you're going to give
Right.
me everything you went and hunted and gathered for the day and all your women and whatever." I'm like, yeah, it just makes no logical sense. And from everything as far as history, I didn't so much go with like the timeline and the numbers, because like you said, carbon dating can be wrong. I tried to look at, based upon this location, the similarities of the artifacts that they find, I can see that this happened approximately, 16,000 years between this and this other civilization that was found here. So pretty much from what I can see is, it's like they had technology. They had, great cities with their own little beliefs and following. And then I don't know, a sandstorm came through or a mudslide and it just kind of covered it up. And people are like, "Oh, that didn't happen." And then all of a sudden people are like, "Hey, now my grandma said this is down here." And they just start digging stuff
Right.
up. And it's like, okay, so are the people coming back? Are our spirits, coming back after so many, you know, years to end up reclaiming or bringing back that information and that technology? Did we have to at some point go back to be an original nuclei atom and reform ourselves? I mean, it's just interesting to kind of look at how it all works together and the universe around it. And yeah, it's
Absolutely.
completely insane. But information
You know what I
is
found out
knowledge.
recently?
Knowledge is
That
power. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
I said the knowledge is power. So
I just didn't hear what the last thing you said was.
I'm I said I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Right. Absolutely. Oh, I was gonna say I found out something recently about most cities these days. I didn't realize that they purposefully plant male trees So, that's part of the reason why people are getting more allergies problems, but we're also not producing fruit. They say it's so it keeps the streets and sidewalks clean, but you think about all the free food that can be produced within a community, city, all these different things that they have a proper, and it's probably better for the environment to have a mix of the two different types of trees, right? If you all have, it's just like same with bananas. It's all clones. So if they ever lose it, they lose it. They can't get it back, right? Because they're seedless, right? It's all based off of a clone system.
Correct. Unless you have like the heirloom
What do you think
seeds
about
and you
that?
keep everything in the environment the same. I think a lot of the things like you were talking about with the different fruit is like if you plant gooseberries next to this kind of orchard, it'll end up attacking and killing off, the wheat and the cotton trees. And then, I mean, if you look at
Oh, is that right?
okay, June bug. Remember little June bugs? Okay. Those actually came back from war in
Yeah.
like the 1920s and started affecting the ground, which ate off all the Bermuda grass and short grass and crabgrass. So basically no nutrients could be held down. So the topsoil
Absolutely.
would end up blowing away and the roots would then end up having to be attacked by bugs and they didn't get a long enough, system to be able to go over to a water source. So yeah. I think people need to end up going back into areas like you're saying, like with the core, how we do it is if they cut one tree that's an indigenous tree that we need that's fruit or whatever, they have to plant 5 more of that particular tree because they ended up
Yeah.
damaging ecosystem. But it's like in areas where people could end up growing fruit and vegetables, we need to get more people planting fruit or taking, the manure, using different hydroponic systems to end up growing stuff because we could be self-sufficient.
Just more
Everybody
sustainable
could.
systems, more or less, is what you're getting
Correct. But they've
at.
basically
Okay,
come in
cool.
there and used genetically modified foods, which everyone talks about, the Roundup causing cancer with carcinogenics. It's the same exact
Yeah,
people
you ever
that
seen the
cause
movie
the
The Web according to
carcinogenics
Monsanto?
that are growing food. I
Right.
mean, I understand the dwarf tree where you can grow it in a container and you get the same yielding of food as a big tree. But if you end up cutting the fruit up and bees won't even eat it, or the bees that eat it end up dropping dead, like that's not good. They were talking about the delicious
No,
apples that never brown or change colors.
right.
So,
Yeah,
and
some of
like
the
you
comments
said,
are saying
no
they want us
plants.
to be reliant on them for sure, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. Mass control, mob
So,
mentality. If you control the food, the water, or the
yeah.
shelter, then you control the people.
Well, that's why we got to do our own thing, right?
I think every like block, like at the end of the block, should have a community garden and we can all help each other and work on each other's gardens and have fruit, at the end of the row,
Definitely.
even if it's just that we have to pay for the high priced meat.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if you didn't have to pay for shipping or anything, and you had local farmers and butchers, I probably wouldn't be as ridiculously priced because everything's all about inflation and stuff. But if you're within your own community, everyone's going to be finding equal trades for everything that's needed, right? Everyone's going to be good at something that they can trade for another thing and whatever. I'm sure people are smart enough we can figure it out. We don't need to be
I
reliant
just
or
kind of do
sufficient
business
from
with that.
what they're providing for us, right? We can produce our own electricity, we can produce our own food. There's people that make their own clothes, sew, do all these different things. Everyone's good at something that they can help and provide. Some people are good builders, some people are good gardeners, some people can cook like a motherfucker, some people can make some crazy shit. Like everybody's good at something, you know what I mean? We can all work together, we can figure it out. What the fuck? The only reason the elites or wherever they're at is because we continue to give them our money. If we stop buying the shit that they tell us that we think we should have or they that we should need or whatever, we'd be fine. The only reason they're rich is because we keep giving them money. End of story. We keep them there. It's our own fault.
Well, they do something, and then after they get done making a profit off of it, they end up making a law to where nobody else can do the same thing, or it's an offense. And I'm like, wait a second here. So after you guys all made your money, now anybody else wants to run that same scam, they go to jail because that's just not something we do because we found out that it's not beneficial. All it benefited all of you guys,
No, because
but
they told us they thought was right or wrong, or how we should act and what we should do. And in these situations, we're programmed since we're kids. Like, people, we should be fighting back a long, long time ago. But there's way too much programming. I think that's what the wars were for. I think they just shell shocked the shit out of everyone. They scared the crap out of them. The idea of wars, losing kids, your husband, all these different things. So when it was finally over, people could just get back to their lives, and they were willing to do whatever. You know what I mean? You got the whole education
Exactly.
system, whether for school for kids, medicine, all these different things. There's a lot of these things happen. Like after the war, a lot of different things changed, and people being sold this lifestyle and television programming, all these different things all happened, and they just, that's what I think. And ever since, there's been a lot of programming for sure. I mean, obviously, it's been happening for a while, but like that's a huge thing, right?
Yes. I was gonna say my mother believed
And
that
obviously,
television was
destruction of
depressing,
architecture as
so
well.
we didn't watch TV like limited when my mom would watch it for like 60 minutes and the shows she wanted to watch. But other than that, we
Right.
read books. And as far as like grocery stores and stuff like that, I never ever went into a store like other than our family bringing stuff into the store that we sold things in my life. I never went to a grocery store. Everything that I ate came out of the ground and or we traded that stuff for meat that came from the butcher up the road. He had cows and
Awesome.
sheep and
That's awesome.
we had this. So I lived in
Not
a whole
everyone
barter
gets to have
system.
the good food like that. Yeah, that's awesome. You're lucky. You're lucky to grow up that way. Not everyone gets that opportunity, right?
Right. Well, now I live in the whole tiny house with the solar panel and solar generator and, you know,
Nice.
totally off grid. And people are like, what?
Yeah. Are you
I
married?
was like, no, 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 no.
So you're single and you're doing the off-grid lifestyle, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Cool.
But it's
Sure, it
really
has its
great.
ups and downs. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I know. It's just funny. I want to do the tiny house thing too. Like I built houses for like a year recently, and that was pretty interesting. So I can take those skills, and I did roofing. I've done siding, exteriors, metal exteriors. I used to work like swing stages, like doing high-rise apartment buildings, things like that. So I've got a lot of different aspects of construction and like carpentry and stuff that I can put together. I could build my own tiny home, and once I get settled somewhere and I save up a little money, I'm going to be doing that and kind of go from there. I have a hard time with the whole reliance on motor vehicles and being able to ship everything around. I just want to find a spot where I can just build and go from there. I don't know if I want to do like the van life sort of thing and being reliant on vehicles, that sort of thing. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's a really cool lifestyle, and I
Yeah,
don't
I
need a
had a
lot to be
Tahoe and
happy
I
with
had to
that.
do that for, I had a camper and, all that stuff. And then, remodeled it, sold it. Um, Used the Tahoe more as a conversion type camper, traveled around like that. Hiking
Cool.
trails. I mean, went to many different places. And then basically it was like, okay, well, let's try this tiny house thing. So I ended up buying a really
How much did it
interesting,
cost?
what, this
How
one?
much did your tiny home cost to build? Yeah,
So, so far I have 18 in it.
nice.
So it's not too bad.
And is it finished?
Yes. And I'm doing
So
all
like
the,
the
go ahead.
nice. No, that's
But I
awesome.
switched
That's awesome.
everything to electric and propane, and then
Okay.
water
No
you
wood
just
stove?
haul in, or you can go
No wood
to a
stove?
water source. Not yet. That's
Okay.
the next project. Say, out here, I mean, you'd have to do a little one, and to be honest with you, everything I've experienced from the weather, just kicking on that little propane tank, I mean, you can
Right.
really like heat it up pretty quick.
It's good enough, right?
But
Nice.
yeah, the fire
Nice.
you got
That's
to keep
awesome.
stoking. And it's like, all right. But
So,
I like that idea too,
yeah.
just because I can use it as a cooking surface too.
Yeah, I mean, it's good backup or whatever, but no, it's good. I'm glad you pursued that. I wish more people would. I think he'd be a lot happier. You got to give up a lot to get into those spaces, though. Think about what I've seen people moving from homes to tiny homes, and yeah, just letting go of shit. It's hard for a lot of people, but it's much easier. It gets better over time, right?
It just
So
feels
it's
like,
just a,
to be honest,
it's
like
not,
whenever you go from that, because, I had the $143,000 big, huge, Victorian homes with, 13-foot ceilings, and my kids went to college, and, I had that life. But going
right.
from that to this, it's like such a burden is lifted. The only reason I did that is because I was young and dumb and, ended up having kids. And like, you're like, I want to give them
Mhm.
everything the best as far as that whole traditional whatever, because you want them to have a good foundation. But once it's over with, you're like, oh my God, I can be me again. Thank you, Lord. Like, that was so much fun.
Right.
I love the
Yeah.
portrayal of Punky Brewster and Martha Stewart for my kids, but can I just be me? So
Right. No, I get
it's
to do you.
really a great
Cool.
thing. But yeah, definitely if you get a chance to go down through the Midwest, I'm next wanting to
Oh,
go
I
up
will
there to the
someday.
Grand Canyon area and up to
Yeah.
Hoover Dam. And so I like that. Have an aunt and uncle up there in Oregon, and they're like, "Hey,
Nice.
you can come over here." So I'm like, "Okay, that would be cool." So,
Hmm. Hmm.
all right.
All
Well,
right.
I'm gonna
Well,
get off here. It's really late.
yeah,
It was nice
I was just gonna
talking
say
to
it's
you.
1:30. It's 1:30, and I gotta get up in the morning for some shit. But and I've been on live for quite a while. But I appreciate you coming on and having a
Thank
little
you.
chat, and I appreciate all you guys listening as well. And I'm gonna jump off here shortly. So you have yourself a good night. I appreciate you coming on.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Good night.
I'm like, how do I get out of here?
I can probably do it for you. Let me see. Maybe. All right, guys. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, check out my page if you want. If you want to see the earlier chapters of the book, and you don't want to buy the book, you just want to listen to me talk shit about Tesla and other whatever. You enjoyed that. The first couple chapters, I think no, I put a little bit on YouTube, and I gotta upload some more tonight or tomorrow, and obviously I have a recording of today as well. I appreciate you guys coming in, and yeah, we're gonna be doing this for the next till we finish this book. And yeah, I'll do lives here and there if there's enough interest and stuff as well. But yeah, we're gonna be doing a lot of reading and talking about Tesla, and obviously it brings up other things to discuss and go on about. And I'd like to bring more of you guys on here and there, and we'll have some more discussions. And yeah, but sorry, buddy. Whatever you missed, you can go back and watch starting from the beginning of the book. I have that posted on the YouTube. Just what do you call it? The link tree. You can check that out. And yeah, so yeah, it's like I'm gonna do like longer videos. I do have a few like short videos on YouTube, but I haven't really put much effort or focus into it. It's all been about TikTok for the most part. So I am gonna do like long videos, long format for YouTube, and then short videos for TikTok. So if I ever do, I'll post all my lives and longer kind of videos and stuff on there. So that's what I'm gonna do. And thank you very much. Linktree is the little thing like when you go to look at my profile, you can click on it and it'll take you to like TikTok or like YouTube or whatever. So it's like an easy way to access the different websites, and it kind of connects everything to one place. I don't know. I saw some other people using it. It seemed like a great way to organize all the different things. Originally, I'm from Ontario, but I've kind of lived all over. I lived in Quebec. I've lived out east. You know, I never lived out west, but I spent a lot of time out there. Yeah, just been kind of all over. Spent quite a bit of time on the East Coast too. No, right now, I am in Niagara. So I've been doing a lot of tripping around here, checking out the history, learning about that. I'm leaving here shortly, so next week I'm gonna go to Niagara Falls, and there's a tour of a facility that Tesla was actually involved in supposedly, I shouldn't say actually, supposedly involved in the construction of. I'm gonna check that out, and then I'll be going through Toronto. Oh, there's some star forts I visited in the winter, but I want to reshoot them now and do a contrast between like the winter footage and the like summer, like nice weather footage. Get some better shots now that I've flown the drone a little bit, because the day that I shot it was like the first time I'd ever flown the drone, so I'm a little better at flying it now.
And yeah, then I'm gonna head Toronto. Sorry, Toronto. Toronto. You got to say it the way they say it, or else they'll definitely know I'm not. I mean, I'm from Mississauga originally, but it's besides the point. I haven't lived there in long, long ass time. So there's a lot of stuff to check out there. There's like the old exposition site. There's some other like heritage buildings. There used to be this crazy huge armory that they of course destroyed, unfortunately. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to check out in Toronto, and then I'll keep going. I think there's Peterborough that interests me, Scarborough, Kingston, Belleville, like all these little towns. I don't know if I'm gonna bother with like super super north because I did a bunch of stuff in the wintertime. I don't know if I'm gonna go back there or not. Like the only other places are like Kenora, Thunder Bay, and like middle of nowhere towns. Like I've already been to Ottawa. I did a bunch of footage of that. So I think the biggest concern for me is like Toronto, Kingston, and then yeah, there's Montreal, Quebec City, some bigger cities in between, and obviously the bigger cities East Coast. PEI is super small, so that's an option as well. But we'll see what happens. Who knows? Like I'll just kind of go with the flow of what the future will be. So, anyways, guys, thank you for listening and tuning in. And take care. Have a good night, guys.